You better be listening to Sleazoids or I must break you.
My friend, I'm not given to wild, unsupported statements. And I tell you that we must evacuate this planet immediately.
Jorel, be reasonable.
Once there was a civilization, much like ours, but with a greater intelligence, greater powers, and a greater capacity for good.
Who is she? You know, I think I recognize the costume.
The question remains, just who on earth are you?
On Earth, I'm Lee. Linda Lee.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on and invite you to tag along, helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature Grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise. And at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoids, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon.
Next week is our patron voted episode, and you freaks voted on one gritty double feature. So join the sleaze.
That's right. Patreon subscribers also get an honor shout out and 2 bonus episodes every single month, which we have been doing for, I think, 7+ years now. We have like 190 bonus episodes, as well as our bonus transmission series, where we talk about new release genre films, which we have over 60 of at this point. So if you haven't made the jump yet, patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast, we would recommend doing that. And we'll give our patrons for the week the shout out right here. We had Noah Thompson Neal sign up for an entire year of the show at the annual tier for a little bit of a discounted rate for anyone who's interested. We had Leon Thotsky sign up. We had Gerson Human, JD, Aero Zeppelin, Zane Uma, JJ Henderson, Joe Morris, M, Mick Wisen, Theandre Curry, Ronan Pinkham, Patrick Taff, John Handel, Jealous Cactus, D, James Funk, James Green, and last but not least, Dave Thomas Werft. So thanks so much to all of you folks for that support. Hope you're appreciating all those bonus episodes.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
That's the one plug for the week. The other plug, as always, is Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you were listening on either one of those platforms, and I can see the stats, I can see you right now listening on both those platforms, give us a good old rating and review over there. It helps us climb the ranks and find new listeners. And the last plug, as always, is merch. If you like the poster art that Based Out of Toronto horror artist Trevor Henderson did for our show, you can get that put on basically anything that you freaks can think of. And you guys have gotten a lot of crap. You have gotten notebooks, you have gotten hoodies, pillows, coffee mugs. If you're interested in anything like that, the link is in the description of this episode, as well as over at sleazoidspodcast.com. That is it for the intro. Welcome back to another week. As always, I am your host, Josh Lewis, and joining me also, as always, my co-host,
Jamie Miller. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I believe 2 weeks ago would have been the last time you folks over here on the main feed would have heard from us, where we would have had special returning guest Noah Colwyn of the Blowback podcast on to once again discuss some crime action thrillers that have a little bit of a sort of political bent to them. And also they were internationally themed last month, and also featured helicopters. We did a double feature of Swedish filmmaker Bo Widerberg's gritty sort of 70s police corruption procedural that had a surprisingly stunt heavy finale to it. That was very French Connection inspired, called The Man on the Roof from 1976. And we paired it with Hong Kong filmmaker Johnny Mok's very bleak and ugly heist gone wrong thriller called Long Arm of the Law from 1984, which honestly, less like a heroic bloodshed movie and more like an incredibly grim time capsule of the sort of socioeconomic conditions of 80s Hong Kong.
Yeah, incredibly sad. And also still has room for all the stunt work and even some comedy here and there between all the friendships. So it's an incredible movie. And then Man on the Roof is has an unbelievable finale, and purposely kind of has this like first half of very dry procedural elements, and then just does something so like hyper violent, honestly, and just some really great camera work. And
if you want to see middle-aged Swedish men be like, wait, are cops bad? And then all of a sudden there's a guy trying to kill cops with a helicopter. That's the movie you're looking for.
Yeah.
And we talked about that with We talked about that with Noah 2 weeks ago, back over to the main feed there. And then over on the Patreon feed, though, however, we decided it was finally time. There's been a lot of movies coming out in theaters recently that we had our sort of original films we haven't got around to talking about. And one that we had kind of, really taken our time getting to was a little movie you might have heard of called Jurassic Park from 1993. Steven Spielberg's very sort of meticulously crafted theme park ride version of Michael Crichton's speculative sort of sci-fi thriller novel. And usually when we do a really big movie like that, we do like to try and find something a little bit more underseen, or something that maybe we wouldn't normally go to. And so we decided to actually pair it with a movie from the silent era, 100 years old, the adaptation of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World from 1925, featuring stop motion sort of dinosaur effects by King Kong's Willis H. O'Brien. And it was very cool to see the original feature-length dinosaur movie and all the crude, rudimentary versions that they were, trying to do special effects sequences like that.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the effects progress, and also to see a monster, a dinosaur, kind of take over a city before King Kong did, and to just see the effects kind of where they were 10 years ago, or 10 years prior to that. And then also just gushing about a childhood classic that's still a masterpiece, Jurassic Park. That's just fun. So I had a blast doing that.
That's right. So again, if you haven't heard that episode, patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast, that was last week's bonus episode. But moving on to this week, and once again, sort of similar to last week, we're once again covering a sort of a classic original that is maybe back in the news, back in the multiplex for people. But to do so, we are joined by one of the many wonderful co-hosts of the We Hate Movies podcast, back to talk about a movie I believe he loves, and I'm going to guess a movie he loves less. That guest is Andrew Jupin. Andrew, how you doing, man?
Hey guys, good. I'm just real quick adding Man on the Roof to my Letterboxd watch list, because that sounds awesome.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, it's so
Holy
good.
crap!
Really underseen
yeah.
too. Really good.
Hell
stuff.
yeah. I love our first feature today, and I believe we've done episodes on both of these. And the second movie, yowza.
Well, it was partially why we were inspired to approach you, because we were looking through our mutuals, looking for people who were sort of like fans of the first film, who we thought would maybe have a lot to say about it. And then we kind of came to you. We were like, hey, we really want to talk about the Richard Donner Superman from 1978, with obviously Christopher Reeve as Superman. But then we were like, Andrew, what the hell do we pair this with? And we were like, hit us with anything. What do you got? So what's the pairing?
Oh, the pairing is Jeannot Szwarc's 1984 Supergirl.
Yes.
Of the movie that forced the producers to sell the rights off to Canon, I believe, was what happened here. That's how you know.
A crazy story.
It is a cinematic garage sale if you're selling your rights to those guys, man. Hard times for the Salkinds.
It's never a good sign when you make a movie and instantly they're like, I think we hate making these movies and we're going to sell them to somebody else.
Yes, like this experiment was nice and all, but we're done with this.
Yeah.
Even though we're still like making money technically too.
Right.
There's so much behind the scenes drama and changes made with, really both of these movies. It seems this whole franchise had a lot going on. The Superman, I think, is an incredible film. So whatever happened ended up working out. But yeah, Supergirl is a lot more obvious that there were issues behind the scenes.
It's what happens when you are making then the most expensive movie of 1978. There's a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and you feel the effects of it. I think a little bit more in Superman 2, but there's definitely a little bit happening here.
Yeah, but, you want to talk about troubled production? Superman 2 is a conversation for another day.
Yeah,
that's right.
You can come back next year, Andrew.
But Andrew, I am glad that you are establishing your role as bringing franchises with you, because I realized the last time we had you, it was Chud and Chud 2.
Yes.
I can't resist saying the full title of it. And honestly, this is kind of like Chud and Chud 2.
Oh yeah, no, in several ways, because it's kind of like one is one kind of movie, and then the other one is like a movie that's trying to do the thing that the first one was doing, but it winds up being a completely different movie due to like the presence of shit like witchcraft and whatnot, like downright magic in a Supergirl. I don't know. I mean, I've never really read the Supergirl title, so I don't know anything about the comic line or whatever, but just like, it's just a sorceress doing magic, like some bad Ewoks made for TV movie. You know what I mean? It
is interesting to see both the movies have massive genre changes, and one of them doing them seamlessly, and then the other just it's kind of a mess. It's all over the place.
I also do like the fact though that we are just skipping right past Superman 2 and 3, and we're getting kind of like where this franchise started and closer to like where it ended. Things that we can kind of guesstimate some of the things that happened in between. But yeah, very excited to jump into these this week. So let's do it. Let's talk about Superman.
From a doomed planet in a distant galaxy to a fantastic underground hideaway, from the Fortress of Solitude to the bustling city room of the Daily Planet. Look, up on the screen. It's Superman. Superman, the movie.
All right, we are talking Superman, the 1978 adventure fantasy superhero film directed by Richard Donner, written by Mario Puzo, David and Leslie Newman, and Robert Benton, who were adapting the classic DC comic book character by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, obviously, and starring Christopher Reeve as the titular superpowered alien and his human reporter alter ego disguised Clark Kent, Margot Kidder as his work crush at the Daily Planet, Lois Lane, and the god himself, Gene Hackman, as a nefarious, world-dominating villain. He frequently goes head-to-head with Mr. Lex Luthor, as he Ned Beatty likes to say a lot.
Mr. Luthor
in this movie. Mr. Luthor. It's so good.
Man, I'll tell you what. Watching this yesterday, and Ned Beatty as Otis is amazing in this movie. But after I watched it, the algorithm, was clearly spying on me because I opened up the feed, and I was scrolling through, and there was a clip of Ned Beatty in his amazing monologue that he gives in Network. And I was like, if ever there was an example of like why this dude was one of the best to ever do it, it's because he played the studio head boss network guy, whatever, in Network, who's terrifying and like just absolutely bone chilling. And then Otis is like the biggest doofus in comics almost. Like, it's just amazing that the same guy gave two performances like that. It's just thrilling.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel the same way about all the Gene Hackman watching we've been doing recently.
Oh, yeah,
him as eccentric as he decides to go in this film, which I hadn't seen this in a number of years. I grew up with this film. I watched this film a lot. I had the VHS, and it had been a really like a number of years since I had come back to it, and I had forgotten how. I remembered the sequels was where it really got like sillier. For me, and I was like, no, the Gene Hackman stuff in this is incredibly silly.
Yeah, they kind of treat them like it's like a Rocky and Bullwinkle villain group or something like that. Like they're up to like wacky hijinks almost, even though it is eventually about nuclear weapons and taking over an entire population. It still feels very slapstick and silly.
Well, I think it's because this movie walks a really interesting middle ground around the fact that, they were very clearly adapting a pretty goofy, wholesome, like pulpy character, literally written in the 1930s to, make people, feel better about living through the Depression and like, written by, sort of science fiction and, a writer, Jerry Siegel, and his illustrator buddy, Joe Shuster, who were guys who were trying to break into like newspaper comic strip writing, like these were guys who were inspired by things like John Carter and Buck Rogers and Zorro and like, this idea of sort of this American strongman that became this sort of action comics hero of 1938 and the 1940s and beyond and everything like that. Like part of them feels like they have to be really authentic to that, but the conditions of this being made in 1978 in the new Hollywood era when the studio was more interested in hiring these guys who were making arguably far more artistic products, I guess you could argue. It's like all of a sudden you have material that you feel like probably could have gotten like The Shadow or like the 60s Batman TV show treatment, or like the Lou Ferrigno Hulk treatment, or Doc Savage, or any of these kinds of things that were coming out, especially in like the 60s. And instead, you got these producers here, Ilya Salkind and his father Alex, who had bought the rights, and they were looking at serious names to do a big budget studio adaptation. They wanted to do a hugely expensive movie. They were like, we're going to hire the author of The Godfather. We're going to hire the guys who wrote Bonnie and Clyde, and they were like, and for directing, they were looking at, before Richard Donner got involved, they were looking at Francis Ford Coppola and William Friedkin and Sam Peckinpah, which is maybe the most hilarious one to think about. But we've told the story on the show a bunch of times talking about Peckinpah. These were the producers Sam Peckinpah pulled the gun on.
Yeah.
Were they really the Salkinds?
Yes. Everyone tells the story of Sam Peckinpah pulling a gun out on studio executives. These were the guys.
That's amazing. Oh, that's amazing.
It's incredible.
So, this is how serious these guys were. We are going to, they wanted to manufacture a 1970s hit so badly that they were approaching legitimate artists and technicians and being like, how do we make this work? And on some level, you can argue the reason this works is they just hired enough of them that they pulled it off, that they were like, we are going to hire you put enough talented people in a room and you fire tons of money at them. I'm sure the guy who shot 2001 A Space Odyssey knows how to set up a camera rig. And I'm sure John Barry from Star Wars and Clockwork Orange can build a set for you,
Yeah. Yeah. It also felt like when I was reading, it seemed like they did a lot of rewriting as well, which can possibly lead to like how this feels almost like three separate movies in parts, but it all does feel cohesive by the end. It feels like he might have taken, I don't know, the best parts of each rewriting, or each rewriting kind of took from the previous until it was perfected in some way.
I will tell you, I would love to read Mario Puzo's original draft if it ever came out.
Oh my God.
What does that look like?
It's still, to me, it's crazy just every time I watch this movie and Mario Puzo's name is in the crazy Superman opening credit sequence. And I'm like, that just doesn't compute in my head. It just doesn't. Like, I'm curious, like, what of this movie was his, because it's so weird to me. I'm like, the prologue, and then what? Like, the prologue seems most like him, I guess, because it's like Brando there and whatever, but like, I don't know. It's just so weird seeing that dude's name pop up on this.
Yeah, and when I was looking at the certain casting of Superman as well, just some of those options were crazy when I think about it too, just because of the image of Superman itself. A lot of the actors are awesome, especially even as action stars. Like Sylvester Stallone was even considered at one point. Like, just him as Superman would be an unbelievable thing to watch, but it definitely wouldn't capture the essence of the character, I don't think, like Reeves ends up doing. And
I feel like you wouldn't have seen a single sequel. Like, it would have been we're gonna wait a while and then someone else is gonna come in.
Part of signing an unknown guy like Christopher Reeve was that, we can get him to sign up for 7 movies before he's even made one, because he doesn't know shit.
For next to no money too. For next to no money. I think he got like $250,000 for both the movies, where obviously Brando and Hackman were getting, in the
God,
million.
all the stories of Brando working on this movie are hilarious. Everyone who worked with him was basically like, he was phoning it in, and he was trying to be like, hey, you guys should shoot it this way, so that he could get off set earlier. And, all these kinds of stories, which is funny, because you end up watching how much he gets used, and he gets used well. Like, I actually do think that, the opening kind of, origin section of this movie is some of the strongest stuff, because of just how faithful and kind of sincere and kind of serious it tries to treat it. Because it's kind of part of the issue they had with this movie, is they couldn't figure out, is this a serious sci-fi epic like Shakespeare in space or something, or is it going to be more of the sort of campier affair you feel like people want from us? Which is why I think final draft, from what I understand, is Tom Mankiewicz, who is the guy who did the Roger Moore James Bond movies like Live and Let Die and Diamonds Are Forever and Man with the Golden Gun. And supposedly he just scrapped a ton of what was already there, and is also partially responsible for some of the somber stuff, because I guess Richard Donner, who was hired off of these guys were just trying to formulate a hit. So they probably just looked at the box office results and they were like, hey, The Omen made a lot of money.
Wonder what hire that guy.
Yeah.
Spielberg and George Lucas said no now because now Star Wars and Jaws have come out and they're already working on their next thing, so we can't get them anymore because they missed the boat on that, despite the fact they clearly wanted them so badly. But Donner, perfectly solid American, just like 70s sort of handsome technician for this stuff, he has a workman quality behind the camera, while at the same time seeming to, especially I think in the opening stuff, and I think Lester, who eventually took over sequel duty for him, described him as someone who did actually see the potential in this material to almost get to this kind of David Lean grandiosity. And hearing Lester describe that was how Donner saw the material, I think is why the opening stuff plays as strong. Like when he shows you images of Krypton and he shows you the giant, sets that they had built and some of the miniatures that they had built, and you have someone who has the gravity and the weight of Marlon Brando, speaking over it, even if he is calling it Krypton because he couldn't be bothered to learn how it's supposed to be said, he is still lending it some of that gravity. And, you feel that, I think, in this opening section in particular.
But that's what I love about it, is like the fact that Dick Donner is like just this journeyman workhorse guy. There's not any kind of like style that affects this either way. Like the material speaks for itself, and like the set design speaks for itself. The performances speak for itself. There's like, I'd be hard pressed to sort of pinpoint like the Donner touch on any of his movies, but that's totally fine. Like, and I think that's why you need a dude who's not going to be like hyper stylized. He's just going to let the material do its thing. And I mean, this movie sings, but that prologue is super great.
Oh, It's also unbelievably long, in I think a really great way. Now, this would be a good segue just for this, because we were talking about it before we started recording.
We haven't brought this up yet.
I ended up watching the 3-hour and 8-minute cut of this, which is, I think, a like extended TV cut where how do you say their name? Is it the Salkinds? Okay, so they got the rights, I guess, the television rights, so they were able to use some of the extra footage to make it longer. And so I think Donner has gone on the record as saying he doesn't like it because he thinks it's nothing more than an assembly cut. I'll be very curious as to what the extra 45 minutes is, because I don't think I've seen the 2-hour version, and you guys have.
I realized no one saw both cuts, so we are going to be piecing together what's different about Jamie's as we kind of discuss it. As soon as Jamie brings up a scene that I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man?
And this, honestly, there might be one here. I'm not totally sure, because this is before they do the crawl where it's the credits and the big the unbelievably great Superman score by it's John Williams, I believe, right?
It's John Williams again. We're talking about John Williams 2 weeks in a row. We were just singing his praises like crazy on Jurassic Park, and I mean, there's a reason you know the man's name in your household, even if you don't know a whole lot about movies. And this score and the Jurassic Park score together, like some of the most theatrically bombastic and kind of arousing music that's ever been put in for a film.
Definitely, it gets me so excited when the credit starts. Honestly, I think it's and the way they use it too when Superman has those triumphant moments, it's just fantastic. But in the I think this might be in the 3-hour cut only. It's they have this almost like these theater curtains open up and they do a black and white opening.
This was on what I saw.
Okay, so it is on the 2-hour and 20-minute version or whatever.
Okay. I watched this on Max here in the States, and it was
it's like the kid flipping through the Action Comics 1 and the color sort of exploding onto the screen and the flying credits hitting, all that kind of stuff, where it's definitely announcing to you that, like, hey, this thing that your grandpa used to read on the streets. Look at it. It is in full scope color framing. Look at this.
But it's the intro's weird though, because it's like, it frames the Daily Planet as like
a real thing.
As a real thing that like, it was the paper of record during the Great Depression. And it was the only thing like keeping Metropolis going. And I'm like, what is this? Because it doesn't even mention Superman. It's all about the Daily Planet. It's so weird.
That is interesting. They do some fun things where I think they're trying to bring Superman back into like or forward into the 70s. There's obviously some stuff I'm assuming they do with the dialogue between Lois Lane and Superman. But then there's even simpler stuff like when he passes a phone booth, and he's just like, no, I can't do that now, and goes into like a rotating door instead.
Yes,
it's kind of like a more, I guess, more modern version of what they used to do for him.
Because he's standing, it's like a phone kiosk, so like it's not. There's no bottom to it, and there's no door. And I love the look that he gives. It's just like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? It's such a great moment.
Yeah, exactly.
My God,
exactly.
Reeve is just so unbelievably good in this movie. Every time I go back to it, it's such a shame that he never just like was able to get out of the shadow of this performance. Because even watching, I actually watched every single one of his movies because I don't know why. I watched the second one just for context for this episode. I was like, I'm gonna watch the third one. Then I'm going to watch the fourth one. And I realized every time, even when I was watching the bad ones, I was like, this guy is terrific. And I love watching him. And I love even the fact that he decided I'm going to co-write for, and I'm going to make it about nuclear disarmament because it's just an issue I personally care about. And I'm going to make Superman like speak at the UN. And just, he really does live and breathe this character and has so much fun with the like double identity component of it and playing a character and you know, he's having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely. And the commitment to it physically, I think they wanted to put a muscle suit on him, and he put on 20 pounds of muscle, basically.
Oh, he bulked up. That jawline is crazy.
Yeah, and he looks great. He looks huge in this, to be honest. And I love too, obviously we can get to certain details, but the way that he like has that pathetic posture when he's Clark Kent. And then there's even a scene where he actively takes off the glasses and then puts his posture into a more proper position, and he's from 6'2" to 6'4". Oh my God. And I love that. God. He's got the smile.
There's just something about like, it's so difficult to be a guy who could like not look entirely out of place wearing a suit like that and like look cool and look confident and look like someone who knows, you know, how he is dressing. Yeah. And then when he puts on the normal clothes and he looks like, oh, like that's just a handsome man right there, and he's doing all these little gee whiz, aw darn it shit, and he's like, you know, just klutzing around, and it's a very adorable when he eventually gets on screen, which I actually did forget. It takes him about 40 minutes before Christopher Reeve's in this movie on and I watched it.
For me it takes like an hour and 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
And I gotta say, you're just so I really feel like, I think most of the scenes that they do is these more elongated, almost like building more atmosphere than anything else. I'm going to be curious as to what, if there's like extra dialogue, because a lot of it when I was watching it, knowing that this was like an extended 3-hour cut, there's just shots where they focus more on, you know, the sets, and they take a little longer to get to the dialogue scenes, and it feels like they're using that kind of stuff. So it's a lot more almost like all the establishing shots of just the beautiful things they come up with and the miniatures.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of like, it's definitely patient. Like even the theatrical cut, it's about 40 or 45 minutes or so, and there are just like shots of here's Krypton's big red sun that's going to destroy Krypton, and then when we're introducing the gray-haired Marlon Brando as his father Jor-El, you know, who, you know, it's done in this brief scene overseeing the sentencing of Terrence Stamp's General Zod, who would obviously become the villain in the second film, and his underlings, and giving you the whole, you know, imprisoning them in the Phantom Zone for attempting this military coup, and, you know, establishing him as the lone voice of reason, warning against this environmental destruction. And I will say, the way that it establishes just the look of this place and how vast it is, and, you know, this sort of frozen monochromatic mass of land that's kind of glowing and reflective, and it looks like one giant like black and white crystal in an Arctic like Star Wars base or something like that. It spends a decent amount of time just being like, look at this shit we had built for this movie. Isn't it impressive?
I found this beginning really interesting too, because obviously we're watching Superman, so we know that he's supposed to kind of encompass all that is good in humanity and whatever, but it's interesting to start the movie like this because it has actually a very dark sense to it, where he's, you know, you have 3 prisoners in the middle of this just black room. You have the council members that have just their heads on giant screens around them, and it almost has this like 1984 kind of vibe to it. And totally. I'm like, we don't know yet the morals of this community, so it feels really dark. And then they have the reveal that they're in this like prison dome, and they're about to send them into space for all of eternity in this little like glass square.
And even the people
around.
doing the
It's crazy.
sentencing are like, not believing the scientist who's like not, saying, don't tell the masses they're all about to be killed. That would be very bad, followed 5 minutes later by a crazy large scale disaster sequence of their just entire planet collapsing and exploding, and the bright sort of like red lighting of the sun reflecting off all of their robes and people just screaming and falling to their death.
Dude, it had been a really long time since I'd rewatched this one. And boy, those people screaming and falling into the depths of Krypton and just the scream. It was all this stuff that I just did not remember. And I was like, good God, this is dark. And as they're like mid falling and the screaming has yet to stop, then just the planet explodes. Like it is so brutal. I love it.
Thing. Yeah, I remember watching that as a kid and just like trying to wrap my head around how much death I actually just witnessed in the first 10 minutes of the Superman movie.
Yeah,
and it is truly unreal. And even, I mean, again, when they do the zoom in, when that floating square is coming towards Zod and the other two, he has like tears in his eyes. He's actually terrified about what's about to happen. So it feels like a real punishment. And then when they go and they're like spinning, I don't know if this is also in your version, but eventually when Superman is on his way to Earth, he actually does pass them. And the girl is like saying like, let me out. It's like basically just knowing like it's torture what they're going through.
Whoa, no, that is not in the theatrical cut. That's awesome. Ursa screaming in pain. Love it.
Yeah. And I can't exactly remember if it's like let me out or something. It's she's saying forgive me. So she's like I want to come back. I'm so sorry that I did this. Is hell on earth or hell in space, whatever. And so yeah, it does have a really dark sense to it in that first. I mean, with this, it feels like, I don't know, is it like 20 minutes or something for you guys? It might even be like 30 or 40 minutes for me.
Yeah, that's about right for us, because it is mixed in with the sort of a little bit more of sort of like the rousing and romantic quality that's going to come in, which is mostly in the form of Jor-El making the conscious choice to save his son by orphaning him, obviously, as the origin goes. And it's a contradiction that he and, his wife Laura briefly discuss, where they say, like the earth it's primitive, but their atmosphere will sustain him and he will look like one of them, but he won't be one of this classic stuff like Brando, and even all the sort of like pregnant pauses that Brando throws in that you're wondering, were those scripted or not? Again, it just lends itself to the weight of him being like, her talking about how he's going to be odd and he's going to be different and he's going to be completely isolated, and him being like, yes, but he's going to be fast. He's going to be invulnerable, and talking about how the son becomes the father and the father the son and all this kind of stuff, while you get, the little baby Kal-El going on his little, sort of the minuscule version of, or the cutesy version of like the 2001 psychedelic journey into the crystal spaceship, where, of course he eventually ends up landing in this small fictional Kansas town of Smallville, or Alberta, Canada. Beautiful location work here, and is adopted obviously by the two local farmers, Jonathan and Martha Kent, the 1940s and 50s actors Glenn Ford and Phyllis Thaxter, who I will once again part of the sort of 70 hiring a bunch of people who could just do really, really skilled work. It's not even just the technicians, it's in the supporting cast. Like Glenn Ford, I forgot, he's in 2 scenes of this movie and he tears your heart out.
Oh my God. It is like, forget it. Like that's another thing. It's like, boy, I did not think I was going to be like shedding a tear 30 minutes into Superman, but Glenn Ford he grabs that arm and he knows what's coming and he just goes, oh no. Like, what are you talking? That's so good. And it's 2 lines or 2 words.
Yeah, I've remembered that part since I was a kid. And I remember even as a kid, I think it was the first moment that I really like wrapped my head around the thought of a heart attack, where you're just like, this is it. Like the moment where you go numb and you just feel it. And then it
just happens. And it's like, and it was like he was just talking to him. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It's just exactly. It's the suddenness of it. And it's that realization, like you said, the, oh no, makes it so sad, because he's having that whole, in that one moment, he goes, I have to say goodbye to everything. And then he just drops. And it is honestly heartbreaking.
Yeah. And didn't reach the same, beats of breaking my heart when Glenford appeared in things like The Visitor and Happy Birthday to Me. All two films sort of around this
maybe
time.
it's not as simple as just hiring Glenford. Yeah, maybe you got to give him a little something to work with.
I do like too that before this we get a lot of like the teenage Clark Kent stuff, like him having
and a little
fun with his
montage of him
powers.
growing up and testing his powers is good too. And the idea too that, you know, you have Glenford telling him that he needs to hide them and not show them out of fear of further alienating him, and getting those moments where he breaks the rules because he's a fucking kid. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kick this football across the goddamn state. I don't give a shit.
And I like that it's also out of frustration because he's trying his best to be like kind of just, you know, low key, but at the same time he likes this girl. He still has feelings for people and he would like to be accepted. So he is going
and he has that really important question he asks where he's like, is it showing off to do what you're capable of doing? Like, is a bird showing off that it can fly? And he's just like, look, I just don't want like a government agency to be like, who the fuck are you to come steal you from me? Like, you know, you are here for a reason for sure. It's not to score touchdowns. And that's the line that, you know, that's the sort of belief that he imparts in him before dying of his heart attack and leaving him fatherless twice. And that's why that really gets, you know, sinks into him that he needs to have two identities.
Did you guys, this might be one of the deleted scenes because I'm not sure. Does Lois Lane make a brief appearance in the train running scene?
No.
That's a good question. There is a girl who watches him run in the train. I did not realize that was supposed to be Lois Lane. I don't think she speaks in our version.
So what they do in the version I watched was they actually do a quick cut into the train, and it is Lois Lane as a girl, and her parents are like, she goes, "Look, Mom, like someone's, you know, running really fast or whatever." And their dad and mom are just like, "Okay, honey, like stop," because they're just looking.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that scene's in there, but I don't think they clarify that it's Lois Lane.
Yeah, does someone refer to her as Lois? They say
she says. Yeah, they say Lois. Yeah, like they're like, and I also thought that was kind of funny too because she's like 8 years old in it, but like, whatever. It's the 70s, I guess. Yeah, but it's like
there was no age gap conversation, Jamie. Come on, man.
Apparently, the people that played the mom and the dad in that moment were actually the Lois Lane and Superman of like maybe it was the 50s show or something like that, and it was their only cameo, but I guess they took it out in one of the cuts. But yeah, so I think that's one of them. Although that's like 5 seconds long, so we still have 44 minutes.
We have so much to uncover here, and we're gonna do it just like this. We're gonna describe what we watched, and then have Jamie be like, "You guys are missing the 20-minute scene where it's a hot dog." Actually, sorry,
and it is essential to his character, by the way.
Yeah, no, because I think in our version he dies, or Glenford passes, obviously, and I mean you have in my opinion one of the most beautiful shots in the entire movie, which is that one at the
Smallville Cemetery.
Yes, that, and when they're surrounded by the farm fields, and you have him being like, you know, all these things that I can do, and I couldn't save him, and you just have Martha like holding him in the wheat field, and the camera like floating along as they hold each. It looks like a fucking Rockwell painting or a Malick movie or something. It's like just such a beautiful moment. Again, that grandiosity kind of coming back in.
Yeah, and it is a really sad moment too because. Him knowing that he's already different when he has that first experience of loss, it is kind of, I think, him slowly recognizing that this is, as the character of Superman, it's going to happen over and over and over again because he just doesn't live by our rules. He's so much more powerful, and so that is kind of a sad existence. It's that classic immortality kind of thing.
Well, it's that exact thing his mother was saying. He's going to be lonely. He's going to be isolated. Like this is going to be a weird experience that he's going to have to grow and live with people who he's not biologically related to and who have different, you know, can die to things that won't affect him. And, you know, that's why he has this entire fortress of solitude, right? Like it is this whole thing where, and that's how he connects. But it is kind of this cold, you know, alienated place he has to go to where he speaks to his ghost dad. And, you know, all of the original sort of symbolism of the comic is, I think, being imparted, I think, with a great sort of visual language and emotion in this early stretch.
I really like, too, that camera work that he does in the field when he hugs his mother and says goodbye. And it kind of like does this really smooth, fluid pan at ground level and then kind of shoots up and cranes upwards like it's flying. And then goes into that that transition where he's kind of traveling and finding the solitude, the fortress.
Yeah,
of
he's
solitude.
got to go to the fucking Arctic and speak to Papa Jor-El, who, you know, does explain to him all the things he's going to need to know about how he has strength and how he has power, and, you know, everything to do with his pride and his heritage, and also obviously sort of the line of, you know, the movie for a lot of people, or it gets repeated throughout the franchise and even brought back in you know, sort of other versions of it, which is that, you know, you are here to help the humans become a better people, because they can be, there's potential to, but they, you know, they lack the light to show the way, and, you know, their capacity for good is why I have sent them my only son, really kind of confirming this.
Space Jesus.
He's Space Jesus, baby. Everyone made fun of Zack Snyder for doing it and being like, what if there's a crucifix in the same frame? We were like, it's a little on the nose, Zach, but
we get it, bro.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like nobody was saying you're wrong, man. It's just it's the most obvious shit of all time. Like,
he maybe doesn't need to like sit in the church, you know. It's,
yeah, exactly. By the way, this fella doing teenage Clark Kent here, Jeff East. This guy got a raw deal, if you ask me. He's got a terrible wig on. They gave him a prosthetic nose, and all of his lines are dubbed by Christopher Reeve.
Oh, yeah, I did read that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had a fake nose. That's funny. But
there's a lot of weird dubbing work that they did in this franchise. I literally just finished watching, I'm sorry how much I'm going to bring it up, because I finished watching 4 for the first time today. But Gene Hackman dubs Nuclear Man in that. I was like, why?
Because the DNA of Lex Luthor is in him, so of course that makes sense.
I guess
Josh.
that's true. Yeah, okay. Do you know what? I stand corrected. It makes perfect sense.
It's funny about the Hackman doing the dubbing there, though, because we just did a show a few weeks ago at this point on Superman 2, and that movie, of course, all the troubles with Dick Donner getting fired and all that stuff. Part of it was like camps of people, like you're pro Dick Donner and you're pissed off about this, or you're ambivalent and you don't care that Richard Lester came in. And Hackman was in the Donner camp, and he refused to do any reshoots for the movie. So all the stuff you see in Superman 2 of Lex Luthor and Miss Tessmacher in the Arctic Circle on like the dog sled and whatever, and you see it's like from afar, so it's like a body double. And then it's a guy doing a Gene Hackman impression to do the Lex Luthor lines, and it's awful. It's just kind of a gruff guy, and Miss Tessmacher, we gotta go to the Arctic Circle, and it's so embarrassingly bad.
Oh my god! They also
they were using the same tricks in the whole franchise, but yeah, you would say that the seams show the least amount in the first movie. It is just a fairly handsomely made movie. They
also do one. This one isn't as obvious, and I don't even think you would notice it because it might even be in the credits. I'm not sure whether it's sung, but I think Margaret Kidder, who plays Lois Lane, was also supposed to sing one of the songs, and then Donner didn't like it, so they overdubbed her voice with somebody else. So there was a lot. Yeah, well, that's got to be cool. You do a whole studio session. They're just, the next time you hear it, it's not even your voice. That's just got to be brutal. But yeah, so they did a lot of changes, it seemed, in post with some of the stuff. It's still, but this movie somehow does really work. Like, we're just talking about this origin story. For me, it's like an hour and 10. For you, it's 45 minutes. But honestly, it all feels kind of necessary. Like, at least I really enjoy it. I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was reading a lot of people's reviews for this one, because a lot of people do find the movie, I think now, because they're watching a 1970s movie with modern eyes, they find it a little shaggy. They find it a little long. Even the theatrical version is nearly 2.5 hours long. Yeah, and it's a sort of an assessment I didn't like entirely disagree with. I just disagreed about what people found long. I found some people being like, it takes like 45 minutes before Clark Kent is even like at the Daily Planet, and I was like, yeah, and all the stuff is sick.
Yeah, it's awesome. Right. It's so good.
That was the thing. I was commenting on Blue Sky when I was watching this yesterday, like, oh yeah, it's crazy, like 40 some odd minutes, and this kid is just getting the Arctic Circle, and then it's a full like hour until we see Hackman, and then I was like, oh, I don't want people to think I'm complaining about it. So I had to like quote myself and be like, by the way, this is all great. I think it's a phenomenally paced movie, and I think it's funny about like the modern audiences thing now, because it's like, I don't know, I feel like me and a handful of other people will complain about like the length of like a Marvel movie, but like otherwise the general public doesn't seem to care as much. So like, why would you care about the fact that this is 224 and it's actually like better paced than a lot of those films in cases?
Honestly, I think it's just because it's the old fashionedness of it. I think it's how straight and simple and you know, I which is all things that I'm saying like positively about the movie, because like even when you first get, you know, introduced to, you know, Clark Kent in his, you know, he's finally has this identity, and you get, you know, Christopher Reeve being able to do this adorable and, you know, sort of introduction of him, where again, he is, you know, the sort of dorky, bespectacled, mild-mannered version of himself, almost doing like a Cary Grant routine as he, if he was like in bozo mode, when he is, you know, getting his job at the Daily Planet for the editor-in-chief, Perry White, played by Jackie Cooper here, and obviously befriends a little Jimmy Olsen, played by Mark McClure, and obviously the hard-nosed Lois Lane, Margot Kidder, who I think I don't know how many times we've talked about Margot Kidder, but we sang her praises like crazy in our Black Christmas episode. And it makes sense that movie. She is, and she brings some of that, you know, sort of feistiness, I think, to this movie, even if it's done in a little bit more of an adorable and kind of energetic way here.
She's good as, is she Kathy Lutz in the original Amityville Horror? Is she the wife to James Brolin in that?
Oh man,
I think she is. She is. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so she would have done that right after this. It would have been the role right after.
Which I think she's also great as in that movie. I mean, there's tons of great performances in that movie, but it's another Margot Kidder doing awesome stuff in horror movies.
Yeah,
and well, I was going to say the dual performance in fucking for De Palma and Sisters, right?
Yes,
yeah,
the scariest movie to be set on Staten Island.
I love her introduction too, because you kind of get that POV from a camera. Who I can't remember the camera guy's name. He's got a specific part because I think he's also in Supergirl.
Jimmy Olsen.
Yeah,
Jimmy Olsen, the boy.
He is. Yeah, Mark McClure is the only guy that was like,
I'll
come over to Supergirl.
I'll keep going.
Richard Donner.
Yeah, it's another. It's going to be a whole other year before I'm Dave McFly in Back to the Future. So yeah, I'll be in your Supergirl movie.
And I do love her like introduction. She's got this like confidence and upbeat quality to her. But it's very fiery. Like I love when she is with Clark and I think he's trying to open a bottle and she just grabs it and like smacks it off the table a couple times and like in a very, very quick physical way. And it just feels like she's impulsive, but intelligent at the same time. So
but also can't spell, which comes up a lot in this movie.
True. That is funny. Yeah.
Dude, but whatever the story she's working on though, where Perry White's like rapist has 1 P or something like that, I was like, what are we writing about in this Superman movie? That's kind of interesting. I mean, the thing that I also really love Margot Kidder for, she's in the first 2 and then she pops back in 4, I think, or one of them she's like, bye Clark, I have to go on vacation, and she literally leaves
the third one where they decided we're gonna go give her a tan, and Lana Lang
Lana Lang comes in, that's right. But like I'm thinking of other, like the brassiness is what makes Lois Lane, and I don't think that they hit it with Kate Bosworth in Superman Returns, and I don't think they hit it with Amy what's her name? Amy Adams in those Snyder ones at all. Like I just think they were 2 completely different Loises. And Margot Kidder, I mean, it's, you know, like a sort of like Terry What's-Her-Face in The New Adventures of Superman. She had the brassiness too as Lois Lane on that show. So like the brassier, you know, and tougher Lois Lane is, like that's the Lois Lane I care for.
Like I need a scene. If you're doing Lois Lane, and this movie I think does the scene perfectly, where it gives her a great introduction, obviously, but the scene where you figure out what the dynamic between these 2 characters is going to be is the one where he pretends to get mugged, and we know he's Superman. He doesn't need to be mugged. He's pretending to be weak and scared, and he's like, "You don't have to do this, Mr. Criminal," you know, all this, and then he catches the bullet as it fires at him,
as he's doing it, by the way.
But it's the way that Margot Kidder, the way that he looks at the fucking camera and breaks the 4th wall too, as he like puts the fucking bullet, you know, he's like, "Look, I got it, it's right here, guys." And but But for me, it's Margot Kidder's reaction to go from, oh my God, this poor sap just got shot because I wouldn't give this guy my purse, to him being like, oh, he just pretended to faint. And her and the look that switches of going, oh, this fucking little bitch.
Yep.
That is the Lois Lane.
Dude, she's disgusted with this guy. Like, are you kidding me? This coward fainted?
And I think this is my favorite part of Reeves, is because at first I kind of forgot how he played the dynamic of playing both of them. I thought it was going to turn into like this, oh, she doesn't like me as Clark, so I only have to be a Superman.
No, she likes him for two different
but,
reasons. I mean, the first time she says, "Are there two of you?" It's a great, obviously meta joke, but it's also because he's such a Boy Scout that he's sending half his paycheck to his mom.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
he's like,
absolutely.
This is a very nice guy.
Yeah, but with them, like when he does have those moments of showing that the Clark character that he's putting on is very weak, he actually has fun with that. And I thought it was going to be more of that thing where it'd be like, I have to be the Superman version of myself all the time. So in order to get
he's not tortured about it.
Care. No,
he's self-consciously meek and like having fun with it. He's like a deadpan comedian.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Even when and the beauty of it is when she gets mad at him as Clark, he like, again, he does that little smirk and he's just kind of like, this is hilarious. I love this because she'd love me if she knew who I really was. And
he's stoked that like it's working, right? He's like, yes, she totally bought it. She believes that I'm a fainting coward. Awesome.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I'm not this incredibly large, confident, sharp-jawed, alien version of an American strongman.
Him getting pushed around by a bunch of short kings in the office is absolutely hilarious. I fucking love it. It's so funny. And the way he like looks around, like he just doesn't know what to do. Like he's a lost dog. It's so good. He just gives it so much sincerity to it, which I guess for some people might be a lot because this whole movie has so much of it. But again, with Superman, it's like you have to have that kind of sincerity.
No, this was all the stuff I even could have used more of because Reeve is so good in this movie. The way he smiles and clearly enjoys playing a character. It's entirely delightful. Everything he has with Margot Kidder and the way they sort of form, that kind of feisty chemistry with one another, and shooting, both of them at some points in the movie doing these adorable sort of glances and reactions, and having this sort of screwball-y rom-com dynamic with each other. Like it's where the likability and the heart of this movie, really is, alongside obviously this sort of connection to, sort of like both his dads with the, the sort of mission that they have given him and all of that.
That's why this is why I think this is like the best we've seen of like a Superman adaptation. And I think like minus the human scum involved in Superman Returns, that movie, Brandon Routh, I think, does a really great job of not only being a good Superman, but he's a great Clark Kent. And I think that that's like the most important thing, is like your tone as Clark Kent has to be a certain way. And if it's like too dark or like serious in a non sort of lighthearted way, then you get like, it's Superman, but he's kind of got the personality to Batman. And that's why like in some of those other movies that I'm not going to talk about because I don't want you guys getting letters from internet psychos, like those movies, like it's Superman with the tone of Batman, and it just falls flat for me. Anytime that happens, I check out, because you need it. You need those two dudes, Batman and Superman, to be like not only opposite in like philosophy and whatever, but like in just literally everything about themselves.
Yeah, no, it took me quite a while to reckon with the fact that Snyder's version of it was very much like, what if Superman was like Dr. Manhattan? And what if he was, I went full-fledged with the existentialism and torment and loneliness. And it's not like a completely like invalid approach, I think, but it is one of those things where if someone just said it's not what I like about this character, it's like, it's fair enough, because like you watch something like this and you are like, there is so much heart and soul to how that Reeve does this, how they have really faithfully adapted this character here. And honestly, it is the best stuff in the movie. By the time you get to him doing the sort of disaster movie sequencing, that's when for me it becomes a little bit more kind of like, it's a little bit ho-hum for me. That's the stuff where I was like, I got a little exhausted and I was like, I could maybe use like just a tiny bit less of, sort of Gene Hackman doing his campy Bond villain stuff and, not being particularly menacing. Because for me, I was so in the, again, the opening of this when it's like a psychedelic 70s science fiction epic, and then it does the genre hopping of being like a coming of age drama, and then it does this big city screwball workplace rom-com stuff, and then sort of starts introducing the fact that he brings that sweetness and that Boy Scout energy to even doing the alien super powered heroics, which I think is such a fundamental part of the character. That's what I feel like Snyder doesn't really get, is that he doesn't get he kind of has fun. Like he flies around the city and he enjoys flying and he smiles and, he stops violent criminals and he'll go and, Donner actually does shoot a pretty cool like armed robbery chase sequence at one point in this movie that he interrupts, and it is a cool sequence undeniably. Yeah. But then he'll put that same amount of effort into literally rescuing like a cat from a tree. And that is like the things where the romantic quality of who he is as a character also getting into the action sequences is, I think, such a huge part of what makes this movie work, and obviously defines sort of the central sequence of the movie, which is the two things firmly coming together in, him taking Margot Kidder out on a, flying date, which is filled with so many sexual innuendos as to what it is that these two are doing or not doing, but they are flying and becoming romantically connected with each other. And you do feel like the two, Clark Kent and Superman characters do completely merge together in that sequence. And it's like, it's movie magic, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's, and you have to have, again, that performer that's able to do like that scene right before this too, where they do meet and he goes, oh, it's been swell. And she's like, there are very few people still around comfortable saying that word. And he's like, and then he still comes back with something. He's like, oh, for me, it feels natural. And it's like it's still, he's like committed to that even after being called out on it. And then you have like when he's Superman and he's even messing with the like smiling and messing with the criminals, like when the guy's using those suction cups to climb the skyscraper.
That guy's crazy.
He's just like, what was the elevator not working? And then just does a little smirk and grabs him, gives him to the police. Like, and it's so simplified too, the way that he just like grabs a criminal and then brings him to the nearest cop that's on the streets. He's like,
well, the fact that there's no impactful violence to it, it's very graceful. It's very absolutely. Like even when he's dealing with like a horrific situation, like a helicopter crash that could kill people, and it is a pretty cool like near disaster sequence that's done with really cool sort of like analog effects work here and location shooting and miniatures and all this stuff. It's really well connected. But the fact that they just have him on wires, just grabbing it and being like, okay, I guess I will very gently set this down. And easy miss there. Hold on.
And then having that kind of gentle giant thing really works well when it works into the romanticism of Lois Lane and Superman. So it's like, because she looks at him like, this kind of powerful man and I mean, in a way, because he's flying around, he's got super strength, obviously, and everyone looks at him kind of as a god. But then when he has this just this humility to him and there's just this unbelievable kindness, I think there's something the fact there that's balanced.
He just tells himself like a friend in that like great interaction they have, where she's like, "Easy, miss, I've got you." He's like, "You got me. Who's got you?"
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's adorable. That stuff is just unbelievable.
It's wild that in that montage of him sort of like Supermaning around the city and stopping crimes here and there, the time it gets most violent, it's played for a joke and it has nothing to do with Superman, and it is like a product of the 1970s and this movie being made then. But like when he saves that cat from the tree and then he gives it to the little girl and the girl goes inside, and the gag, air quotes, is the mother is like, "What were you doing outside?" or like whatever it is, and you hear like a smack sound effect, and it's supposed to be like funny, and I was like, so child abuse is a real laugh.
Superman
riot.
should be stopping that too.
Where was the super hearing when fucking palm hit cheek?
Couldn't see through the walls then, Superman?
No, I got a lot of lead paint on that house. You couldn't see the kid getting the shit kicked out of her.
Oh my god.
Oh boy.
So I do also love the like they start to do comedy beats with all of his, like when he's saving people, like the one where the plane is about to crash, so he becomes like the third engine.
Yes.
It's like, just fly, trust me, we've got something. And then it's like, it does feel very it's silly. It really is silly, but it's very like lovable kind of.
It's lovable silliness, right, Jamie? Yeah. And I think that's a real important distinction when we're talking about how some of these more modern superhero movies have like comedy in them. The style of comedy often is quip. Isn't this so stupid? Yes. You know, not like literally saying that, but that is the vibe of like, wasn't that dumb? And it's like, I don't know, movie. Like, if you think it's stupid, why should I think that it's like cool or funny or whatever? But in this, it's like, it's actual laughs generated.
I swear to God, if Superman is sarcastic in this new one, I'm done. I'm immediately like, I don't want to see it.
I don't want a sarcastic Superman. No, thank you.
Yeah, I just we don't need the they fly now kind of bullshit. It's just like I'm just sick of, like, I guess, and this you could, because it's been so much time, and some people might even think like when he does little one-liners there is that self-awareness, which I mean there is, but it's not the type of that gross irony self-awareness that I just can't handle anymore.
It's a complete lack of cynicism in this movie.
Yes.
Like everything is completely sincere. No matter how goofy it is, it comes from a place of sincerity.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will
even though he's going for a rooftop date with Lois at a certain point in this, and so much of their conversation is incredibly funny, but it's because of how loaded it is, and because of how much these two clearly just want to bone each other. What's funny about that sequence, like Lois being like, so how like big are you? And he's
how
like,
tall are you?
He's saying like 6'4", 225, and she's talking about the fact, if she lingers on if the rest of him works like a normal human being or whatever.
It is just filled with sexual tension, and I love it because I just
and at first I was wondering, I was like, was I just a kid and I just didn't process that this is what was happening? And then I was like, hold on, she asks him to look you with his X-ray vision and tell her the color of her underwear, and I was like, okay, well that's just blatant.
She at one point too, like the way she says, like, because she's getting about the how his body functions, and she goes, "Do you eat?" And the way she says eat is also heavily implying things.
Come on.
Every single thing.
Come on,
she
Lois.
Does,
listen,
every single one.
Superman, you can fly up in the air, but do you go downtown, Superman? That's what I need to know.
The ladies want to know.
Yep.
At the Daily Planet, and I love that he at one point like he doesn't feed into too much of the sexual stuff of it, but he knows what's going on, which I love because he's always smirking and kind of playing with it. And the one time that he does go back with it is when she asks him, do you have a girlfriend? And he's just like, no, but if I did, you'd be the first to know, kind of thing. And it's like he's straight up hitting on her right there. And I'm like, Superman got game. He wants to get it down, baby. And that's just awesome. Bring back sexual Superman.
Yes, absolutely. but in this kind of way, though, because I think in that BVS, he's banging in the bathtub.
That's true. We don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't need bathtub thrusting Superman.
Yeah, that's maybe not quite as truthful in Justice and American Way as we know
we need.
Normally, he's just spying on their underwear.
We need missionary making love Superman.
Yep, exactly. Real vanilla shit, Superman. Can you do that, dude? Excellent.
Oh man.
I've always been fascinated by, like, she has to be, Lois Lane, like the star reporter and then some for this paper, because what are we talking about with this rooftop apartment? This garden? Are you kidding me?
Look, who knows what Metropolis's, economic situation is?
Oh, that's
but
true.
I'm saying that is a New York ass penthouse right there.
Yeah.
Millions of dollars.
Yeah. Well, actually I think about it, it's like the late 70s, New York was bankrupt at the time. Maybe this is like a President to Metropolis drop dead, like something like that happening.
Yeah. I do also love that, like, as it goes on and as it just becomes more like she definitely wants to stay or have him stay beyond the interview, she's starting to even just say things like, don't fly away.
Yeah.
Please don't fly away. Because he's also he does that, I think, in the first time they meet, where he says a little quip and then flies off. And
well, yeah, she asks who he is, and he just says, "I'm a friend," and that's later he leaves a note for her. It's just like, be on top of like your apartment at 8, assigned a friend, and that's how she knows to be there. And then when she gets there, Clark arrives and she's disappointed at first, and then he's like, "Thought we had a date, Lois." But then he's so smiley because he's like, "Oh, I'm getting stood up on my date because she wants to see Superman." And so then he leaves and flies around the other side and comes back, and he treats that as his date, even though obviously she's not aware of that. And that's what's so beautiful about that sequence when he eventually does take her off and he shows her like, this is what the world as I see it. And the fact that the pure joy of them, they're on wires, they're clearly on some sort of projection, but it's one of those things where the way that it's shot is just good enough that even though you can see the seams of it, I just enjoy the pure sort of wide-eyed wonder of you're watching this completely fabricated, unreal thing that shouldn't be possible. And she is just like the vantage point of how beautiful it looks the way he sees it, and him being able to sort of telekinetically hear her thoughts as she's doing it, and they're flying by the Statue of Liberty and then going above the clouds in front of the full moon. Like, it's very well storyboarded sequence to really connect how these two characters are like, I'm showing you something absolutely incredible, and she gets to go and write that report about it on I spent the night with Superman.
Oh man, what a famous headline. Oh, one of the most famous.
And I guess too, like the patience of that scene too, when they're flying, like again, he takes his time with just
yours might be 20 minutes longer. We haven't figured this out yet.
Probably, to be honest.
Yeah, did they fly to like a Burger King in St. Louis for dinner in your cut?
They visited every single continent in mine. Granted, it probably is like 5 or 10 minutes longer, but I do think that a lot of the stuff that he has is still built with the patience of just like kind of hoping that the audience gets lost in the same romanticism that he's trying to portray on screen. And these performances are great. I mean, Reeves and Kidder are so good when they're like just smiling from ear to ear. And I love the moment when he like she slips away and she drops, and then he goes down and he catches her, and they kind of do like a spin. What a funny thought I had though too, the way that it is directed, it does appear like they kind of slip, but it also, in my head, I'm kind of like, I don't think Superman would really have problem holding on to her. So it almost feels like a little game. He's like, watch this. I'm going to put her in a little danger, and then I'm going to grab her and be like, don't worry, I could save you no matter what.
The wildest part of that,
that's a move, dude.
It is such a move. And the wildest part of it is like, after the catch, the flying just continues. I'd be like, Superman, we have to go back to the penthouse because you dropped me. I fell 100 feet in 4 seconds, and I shit my pants. You know the pink underwear I was telling you about, Superman? I shat them. Wow. So we have to go home now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is funny to be like that. Like, that would have been an unbelievably terrifying moment. And,
totally. And it's played as like, whatever. Date continues.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the line. That's how it's trying to capture the romanticism of what's happening here, and the romanticism of Superman as a character, which is the fact that he is this crazy, all-powerful being that could do really horrible things if he just was raised by the wrong people.
Right.
And the idea is that it's this Kansas Boy Scout who just happened to be the one he's super polite and he's super gentle and all of this. And I feel like the way that the movie has so given you the buildup to showing you the character, and not just like as a fictional character, like the fundamental human character of this guy, even though he's not human, is I think so key to what this movie has done, which is why for me, the movie kind of peaks around this point. Cause I think it's so like, it really has built to like, it's built all this stuff incredibly well. It's paid it off in this completely romantic way with two fantastic performances selling it for you. And then for me, if there's anything that I start to experience a little bit more zone out watching the movie, it's when they do start introducing some of the more nefarious, twisted mustache sort of supervillain plotting. Not because I don't enjoy Gene Hackman. I think Gene Hackman's having a lot of fun, and there's a lot of sequences of him in this and doing like goofy disguises and talking about comically elaborate evil schemes and interacting with his sort of wacky partners in crime. The way that he screams later in this movie, Otisburg, it kills me. It's fantastic. Like there's good stuff in this. It's just, man, I was like, the first like hour to hour and 20 of this movie, it's like getting swept up in this completely romantic vision of this character. And then it feels like they go, oh crap, we need to give people the expensive blockbuster of like, you know, we need to interact in the sort of B TV register, and not in terms of how it's made or anything like that, but we need to give that audience what it is that it's looking for. And for me, that's the stuff that people took the wrong lessons from this movie if they took it, which is that they were like, oh, we need like a really big villain performance and a really crazy special effects heavy climax. And that's what this, and I think this movie delivers both of those things perfectly fine. It's just like, no. The thing that's special about the movie, and that is Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve making googly eyes at each other and having enough context for that you're like, oh yeah, I feel that in my heart.
I agree that I do wish that the Lex stuff was a little bit more connected to everything else that was going on, or at least in the version that I watched, they
start
really
cross-cutting it to it super early on, and it is held at like a distance where you're just like, oh, we're just hanging out with like a Bond villain for a little while who is, you know, probably accurate to the comic book, just cartoonishly evil. Like he's just like, I'm a real estate guy who just wants to dominate the world using real estate.
I mean, you know, his hideout is a subterranean abandoned Grand Central Terminal train station area.
Once again, shout out production designer John Barry,
Holy
the Clockwork Orange and Star Wars fame. This is quite
so
amazing.
Great. It's so great.
He's like swimming in the old fountain and everything as a swimming pool now. And
I feel like that's what makes that writing work for me too, is that like, even if I don't necessarily love how it interacts with the rest of the film or how it connects to it, it is a wonder to still look at. Like this, this incredible, like Jeff Unsworth, who's shooting this, is shooting the entire movie beautifully. And obviously he did 2001: A Space Odyssey and Zardoz. So all of the special effects, like science fiction shooting process, was something familiar to him. All of the miniatures and front projection and matting and wire rigging, rotoscoping, it all really does look fantastic. And the panoramic vistas and the New York and location shooting, like there's tons of stuff to look at, even when it is like, oh, I'm looking at Gene Hackman having the 7th scene in a row where he's like, I'm doing something evil.
It is a lot of like repetition of when is he going to get to the big thing that he's supposed to be doing as Lex Luthor. And for me, especially my cut, I think it doesn't even get to like really the nuclear weapon stuff until like 2 hours and 10 minutes in. You're like,
awesome.
Holy shit. But for me, again, because what you said, Josh, like all the stuff that I absolutely adore and love in this, like I think is honestly like 5 out of 5 material, is all this stuff where he's, you know, interacting with Lois, the origin story, the Krypton, all that stuff. And then when it starts to get into the Lex stuff and mix that in, I'm having fun because it's Hackman and they're wacky. They are doing like silly, almost slapstick hijinks sometimes in a way. And I have a good time with that. It just feels very disconnected in a sense. And I guess with his layer, I guess I just read it as like he's got an eccentric way of performing Lex Luthor. And I'm not very familiar with like the origin of Lex Luthor and how his character is supposed to be, so I don't mind all the like.
I'm gonna have to ask that you call him Mr. Mr. Luthor.
Luthor. But yeah, and I just I wish that was all kind of just connected a little bit more and more just cohesive with the rest of the stuff. But now that being said about the disaster finale, I really do love all the miniature work and all of that. And although there's a lot going on, which can be a little bit disorienting and feel like it's a little stretched out, I do think that it's important for all that to happen because of how they deal with the Lois Lane moment. And it's like he didn't have enough time to get to her. So it almost makes sense that it's kind of overly stretched in a way.
Well, yeah, because we should say his plan is absolutely hilarious. It is to essentially hijack these U.S. Army missiles that are being sort of transported through this sort of beautiful backcountry roads in America, and you have him doing these hilarious sort of con man routines where he's like dressed as like a paramedic at one point, and Eve is a car crash victim, and then he's a hauling company driver at one point, and he's trying trying to hijack these missiles so that he can fire them to blow up the San Andreas Fault in California and make it, and it's so funny. He has Superman describe it to him as well. He's like, tell me about your, did you go to school in America? Do you know all about these unstable colliding land masses that cause earthquakes in California, Mr. Superman? And he's like, very good. Very, very good. Well, I'm going to blow that shit up. And then I'm going to call it the Costa del Lex West Coast.
Yes.
Including, by the way, Otisburg, where his little doofus buddy Otis gets to name one little spot, except it gets erased right away.
It's so great. I love looking at it too. It's all these Lex has this fake map printed out and everything, and all of the Lex parts, like Playa del Rex, whatever, they're all like printed on the thing, and then Otisburg is like scratched in with clearly like Otis handwriting, which is really funny. There's also like a Miss Tessmacher's Mountains or something like that. There's a boob joke there, which is great. Yeah.
Did you is it in y'all's cut where they crash the car and then the girl lays out and the military like
yeah,
like
they're all like, oh, what do we do here? Yes,
okay,
yeah, chest compressions.
I didn't know if that was in the theatrical cut as well.
That's,
I think, out of place from like the rest of the romanticism.
It's so
and hope
weird.
And stuff.
Yeah,
it's such a 70s like thing. It almost feels like something that would be out of Porky's or something like that.
Yeah,
so I get where it's like it's placement of the decade, but it was in the Superman movie. I was like, okay,
it's
this is out
so
of left
weird.
field, it feels like.
That is my favorite when Hackman is dressed up like the EMT, like the ambulance driver or whatever. He has, I think, like the most fantastic of the wigs. Like all his little outfits are so great. I don't think it's until part 2 where there's a shot of, or is it this one where it's all of his wigs like on stands or whatever? Is it in this one? Okay, yeah. That is so funny.
Otis, at one point, he has to like put one onto his stand because he doesn't do it himself. Otis does everything for him.
Right.
I also love I did like the military gag after the chest thing. I was like, okay, boys. But this the one where they're just like, get a stretcher, and then all of them are just like, get a stretcher, get a stretcher, get a stretcher. No one knows like what the fuck to actually do or does anything about it. I thought that was kind of funny and stupid. But
I will say I do like the scene where Lex challenges Superman to like burst into his lair, and he does that whole thing where he like uses a sort of the dog frequency or like the Superman frequency to like message him through the city and tell him that he's going to unleash this poisonous gas or whatever it is, and he has him come to his place, and you just get Christopher Reeve just bursting through into the set, and you just get Gene Hackman sitting back in his desk. He's like, my attorneys will be in touch with you about the damages here, and then he asks Otis to take the gentleman's cape, and he's like, hang that shit up. Like some of the interacting he does there, and how much fun he's clearly having being this ridiculous character and just sort of chewing the scenery is fun. It's really just the fact that this is kind of the scene, and that's it. He tells him his entire plan. You get Superman being like, you're a diseased maniac who gets his kicks by planning the deaths of innocent people. He's like, no, causing the deaths of innocent people, man. I just love killing. And I love real estate.
I love real estate and killing.
What could possibly merge those two things better together than fucking just shooting a fucking missile at California and also New Jersey, which ends up being the thing that ruins him, because it turns out that obviously his little friend, played by Valerie Perrine there, Miss Eve, she's like, my parents live in New Jersey, and that's why she takes the kryptonite necklace off of Superman and is like, you can go stop those missiles now, Superman.
Not before laying a big smooch on him while he's incapacitated.
Again, 1970s. So
Miss Tessmacher.
She's like, he's just like, why'd you kiss me first? And she just goes, because I didn't think you'd let me later.
Yeah, like, oh my God. Okay, well, you are indeed
you
a
probably
villain,
didn't
Miss
need to
Tessmacher.
phrase it that way, guys. I don't know.
For real. And then she goes, why can't I hit it off with the good guys? And I was just like, probably because you say things because I didn't think you'd let me later. That would be my guess. But no, I also think it's funny too to just like, because we've seen all of these very epic moments with like the romance with Lois and then him saving people in different ways, and that are all like kind of varying in scale. And then this moment where it's finally like Lex Luthor versus Superman, or at least the confrontation, and it's just him putting a necklace on him. is kind of funny, like just visually. It doesn't feel like the biggest
and also
threat.
just deducing that like if I took a piece of his home planet and just put him on it, that's bad. Like it's one of those things where they just kind of go,
That's
he just
a wild guess,
I don't know,
but it worked. Yeah,
you know,
it's something in that like in his library sequence there, which there's some physical comedy with like the ladder and whatever, and he's like, you see here, it's the radiation level would be at this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, but how? Like I know you're like a criminal genius and whatever, but like what are you talking about, man? That sounds like bullshit to me.
That's what I mean. That's I feel like the stuff where I was kind of zoning out a little bit more of. If I do at anything in this movie, that's the kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I will say, as soon as he fires those missiles, and it is pure Superman, just in these large scale 70s disaster like action thriller sequences, and all of the just miniature landmarks are exploding left and right, and Superman's doing his best to try to save stop as many of them as possible and stuff. It is like that stuff is fun and expensive looking, and maybe gets a little exhausting with how long it goes on for. But at the very least, like it hits at the exact moment where I said, okay, I think I've had it with Lex Luthor. You need to give me something movie, and then immediately it's like he's throwing missiles into space, and all of a sudden you're watching all these things explode. I'm like, okay, that's stimulating enough. The Golden Gate Bridge collapsing and preventing the train derailment and the fault
laying
opening
on
up
it
and everything.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great.
Comes the rail, like that's kind of awesome. And then I also like the there's like a certain set that they build, I think, where they have these houses that are going through the earthquake, and they're kind of moving back and forth, and they actually have stunt people like going out of the windows and climbing down as they're moving, and it is like all that stuff I really appreciated. And then
and obviously you can tell all the flying is like projection trickery, but like the basic shot construction of it and the editing does help the speed of it when he's finally like, I need to stop this missile and fucking throw it into space. Like it's artificial in a kind of beautiful way that I enjoy.
Yeah, and I also think, again, like I agree that it can go on a little long, but I think after I had that,
especially your version, man.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I'm sure mine was. I'm sure mine is fucking unbelievable. If I were to really
here, I am complaining. Jamie's gonna watch my version and be like, "Dude, this is the 90-minute
like,
cut.
You guys got off easy, bro. This is nothing." But the one thing is when it finally gets to Lois, because it's so long, it does feel like he really had to extend that energy to save everyone, as opposed to just one person he wishes he really could.
Right.
And so I like that. And it is really sad to watch her just after all of these beautiful moments they've had together. She's just completely suffocated by dirt, and he's holding her filthy body, horrible. And she's limp because she's dead. Yeah, he screams and cries. Scream. And it's just like, it's one of those things that, the rules of whatever you want, I guess it's technically time travel. Where it's like this would destroy, the timeline or whatever. He's just like, no, there's so much heart.
Let's call it what it is. It's nonsense. It's literally nonsense. I kind of enjoy it, but I would understand anyone who's like, what he flies really fast and it goes backwards. I don't think that's how time works.
Heartbroken, Josh.
The same thing is utilized in 2 though, in the Lester cut of 2. No. Yes, they do turn the world back around in the Donner cut of 2, but the same notion of Superman, all of a sudden, when he's on the big screen, he's got powers that nobody ever heard of before, because it's that in this movie. And then in the Lester cut of 2, remember, it's the end with the forget me kiss, because she knows that he's Superman. And then they just share a kiss, and she like sits in a chair and then is like, Clark, what happened? And I'm like, but you got so many decades worth of comic lore here. What are we doing? What are we talking about? Forget me kiss? Turn the world back around because you flew fast? What are we doing? It just seems like it was like we need a big thing, at least for this first one. The forget me kiss is just lazy and awful, but for this one it's like we need a big movie size thing that Superman's gonna do to save the day.
I will say the one thing I do I do like the sequence, but the thing I enjoy about it and what works on me is because it is just a direct callback and continuation of the flight sequence, right? And so part of the romanticism of that, and the fact that he is going, like, it's the first time he's really showing another human being this power that he has, that his father says that he had to hide and shouldn't show to people, and all of this, and the fact that he has this moment of being like, she is more important than what those guys, those old ghosts fucking told me about not fucking with human history, not fucking with the earth. Fuck this shit. Yeah. I feel, and so that's just it. Is even though it's a scene that I think makes more emotional sense to me than it does like maybe literal sense in the movie. Emotional. It is one of those things that I do feel the moment, and I especially feel the moment in how well performed the aftermath of it is, which is how he is so happy to see her alive again, and she is berating him and complaining about how he wasn't fast enough to any of the stuff and all of the bullshit she's been dealing with, and he was stopping a bunch of disasters and all this, and how relieved he is to be berated by her on Christopher Reeve's face. It melts my heart. It melts my heart to watch his reaction to Margot Kidder's performance. Man,
it makes it all worth it. It does. He's standing there like, I never thought I'd have my balls busted like this again, but she's not real live for more than 10 seconds and it's already happening. This is awesome. I'm so happy.
I think
this is what I want.
Yes. Yeah.
I think for me, it's just because it's been so sincere and hopeful and lacking complete cynicism that something so over the top, like he goes so fast that he reverses time, just ends up working for me because it's just.
I feel like in any other movie, in any other context, I'd be like, it feels like a cop out to kill someone, have him feel the emotions of killing someone, and then undoing it 2 seconds later. Right. Normally, that's to me bad storytelling. I do think in this they earn the moment, and the moment does end up working for me. It might just be the power of the performances. It might just be how well set up it actually is, and the romanticism of their relationship early on, and how it combines with how he shows her his powers and all that. But the moment does end up, I get a little misty eyed watching this final beat in this, and so. Yeah.
And it is great in the sense that too, like he reversed it and saved her, but he has the memories of what happened. So he still has that sensation. He remembers what it did feel like when he failed that time, So I think it is important that he remembers it, and he will still carry it with him. Like, hey, Kal-El, remember that time you fucked up at work, dude? Can't let that happen again. How many times can you actually reverse the fucking flow of the earth before something awful happens to it? Like, like that was your one time you can do that. So you get out of jail free card, but you got to be more on the ball at work. Superman.
Absolutely. There's your warning from HR.
Yeah.
Don't let it happen again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But enjoy that date with Lois.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, but if I think we're pivoting towards the reductive rating round here, though, honestly, this is the Jamie 4 for me. This is so close to a 5 for me. I do think that the tiny few reservations I have about it, maybe on rewatches, will just continue to sort of melt away as I get more invested in it. This was definitely the watch where I was the most invested in, like the first hour or hour 20 of the movie than I had probably like kind of ever been. And I think it was because I had just finally realized how much fucking work had to have gone in to take this character who someone else would have made a campy TV show or B movie out of, and really just do it so sincerely and so straight-faced, and have producers who are kind of cynically trying to manufacture a hit, but doing so in just such a specific era where the people you're hiring are legitimate artists who can really make every moment of this sing. Like, again, hiring people from The Godfather and Bonnie and Clyde and the Roger Moore Bonds, and being like, all of you together are going to find some sort of tone that works here, and it shouldn't, and they do. And then you have Richard Donner, who is just completely sturdy and unpretentious and just helping realize this big Hollywood thing. And again, Jeffrey Unsworth shooting it is beautiful. John Barry's sets are beautiful. John Williams' music is so bombastic and so rousing. And then just hitting like 2 home runs back to back like that with Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder. And obviously there's great supporting cast too. Like, again, Marlon Brando, despite phoning it in, is good for the 20 minutes or whatever it is that he gets. Glenn Ford is somehow even better with the like 5 minutes or whatever it is that he gets. Like, it's incredibly impressive the work they put in. But basing this all around Christopher Reeve, who was a guy they found who was doing like soap operas at the time, And the fact that he is just so good, so effortless at swapping between doing the big, confident, American strongman in a costume routine, and then this self-consciously meek and dorky performance that he so enjoys doing, and having it bounce off both performances off Margot Kidder, and having screwball rom-com chemistry as both versions for different reasons. Like, that's such an impressive thing that he's able to do there, and how they're able to then blend that romanticism with the old-fashioned romanticism of making this science fiction epic that they're doing early on, and making the emotions of that connect with the rom-com stuff. It's all so beautiful that by the time I get to the more stuff that feels a little more superfluous, or the stuff that would define this genre, which is just a hammy villain and a giant special effects finale, those things are still well made and still performed again by Gene Hackman and Ned Beatty, and all well enough that they're perfectly amusing and enjoyable. They go on a little long, but they do end up circling back around to the bigness and the romanticism. And yeah, ultimately, I really do feel this movie, which is not something I can say about other versions of this genre. And, this is practically a prototype or a Rosetta Stone for, all of those watching this and watching the second one, I was like, dude, Sam Raimi fucking was copying notes doing his fucking Spider-Man movies. I love those movies for a similar kind of pure, corny, old-fashioned kind of really caring about the humanity
with
and the drama.
Sincerity. Those three Raimi movies have sincerity. I mean, I'm not the world's craziest Spider-Man 3 guy. Like, I've found myself kind of coming around to parts of it as the years go on, a little less knee-jerk reactionary in my old age. But like those movies, I mean, it is sincere as all get out. And you are totally right. Like, you can see the one-to-one in that sincerity between this movie and that stuff that he was doing.
Yeah, and it's just, that was the one guy who was like, oh, it's the intimacy between those two lead performances that is what's actually going to really send the rest of this home, and is what's going to make you feel when I do the sort of genre hopping that we do. And in this case, again, going from like sci-fi epic to like farm kid coming of age to screwball big city rom-com to the campy criminal mastermind and disaster movie stuff. It's like the bigness of that disaster movie stuff means nothing if you don't on some level care about how much Superman cares about stopping all that stuff, and how much he feels when he can't save Lois, and how badly he needs to reverse that. And again, even if it feels like someone else would do that same move, and I'd be like, that's a cop out, you little fucking asshole. In this moment, I totally buy it, and I love Reeve and Kidder so much. And it's one of those things where even the flaws of this movie, I can feel my brain and my heart just being like, we're going to duke it out, and one's going to win here.
That's right. Oh yeah, no, I agree, man. I think I'm almost at the 5 as well. For me, it'd be interesting because I've only seen this 3-hour cut. If I saw the 2.5 hour,
Jamie's going to watch the trimmed cut, and he's going to be like, God damn, okay, no, perfect.
Yeah. Or I'll be like, this is trash. It's missing everything.
Oh, dude.
Who knows? But I will be getting around to it because I'm very curious, because I love this. I really do. The only thing that I'm kind of still reserved on is how the Lex Luthor stuff connects in the first little bit. I think once he becomes an actual threat, it does end up working. I do think their confrontation is a little silly just because of the visuals of it. I understand the rules of Superman. It's just that, him just putting on a necklace feels like such small scale compared to everything else that we're seeing. But I understand. I get
this complaint is so funny. Friend of the pod, Will Sloan, just tweeted this out. I think in response to the fact that I've watched every Superman movie this week. And
he's calling you out publicly.
He basically said, "Look, I'm not going to revisit any other Superman movie in advance of the new one. I just don't want to burn out early. There's only so many times you can watch Lex Luthor surprise him with kryptonite."
Yeah. You're not wrong, Will Sloan.
And just speaking to your point there, Jamie, I think that's exactly what Will's referring to.
For sure. It just feels so tame compared to just like what other superhero weaknesses have been or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a little funny. But I mean, Reeves and Kidder are incredible. I love the just Kidder's like fiery performance and Reeves kind of playing with both of that, where he's Superman, he's got the confidence, and then she starts to actually melt for him, but then he goes quickly back to Clark and he's having fun being a total dweeb, and I think that's just a blast to watch. Hackman is honestly really good, even if he feels a little disconnected here and there. I mean, I love him in every little outfit, all the wigs that he's putting on. He's really hamming it up in the sense of the kind of slapstick silliness. I guess that it'll be whether or not that works for you, but for the most part, it works for me. And I think that it's amazing that this film can go from, it's like science fiction to Western drama to romantic action comedy. And I think it does it seamlessly throughout each era that you're kind of showing Superman's life. I think that's amazing. And yeah, the thing that I'm not looking forward to, whenever I get around to watching the new one, is it feels like, okay, you know that one part in the Fortress of Solitude where he talks to his father for the first time and he's kind of like the hologram face, and he has this line where he says, he's like, I have pre-anticipated or anticipated your questions, so I have answers for you, or whatever. And that just kind of reminded me of like a prompt system or like an AI thing. And I swear to God, if they make a joke in the new one where it's just like, I'm sorry, that question is not available for you, like some like reference thing, I just feel like they're gonna do it. I swear to God, they're gonna do it, and they're gonna kind of, have a little bit of that irony or whatever. And I don't know, maybe that kind of stuff is necessary in the modern age.
I'm going to say this up front so that no one gets the wrong idea. You do not, under any circumstances, have to hand it to Bryan Singer. But the fact that he just repurposed Marlon Brando footage because he was like, we're not going to do any better. Let's just let me into the fucking vault and give me the Marlon Brando tapes and I will make new sequences out of it.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That's so funny.
But also they did that too, because like that movie has the stupid thing where like it's a direct sequel to the second one.
Yes.
And I despise that detail because they say he's only been gone for like 5 years or something like that. So it should be like 1985 in that Singer movie. And there's flip phones all over the place. And it's set in modern times, which now looking back, like, nearly 20 years on, it's like quaint with all the tech they have in the film with their low grade, flip phone pictures.
I will say I was in a hotel a couple months ago, and for some reason I was flipping through the hotel channels and that movie came on, and it was the stopping the plane in the middle of the baseball diamond, and I was like, this is a wonderful sequence. And then it immediately cut to a scene with Kevin Spacey, and I was like, I need to turn this off.
And it's awful because like that dude is trash, and again, like, you don't have to hand it to him, but the thing that sucks really bad is he was a really great Lex Luthor. I mean, I remember seeing it in the theaters being like, fuck, like it's not Hackman, but it's really solid. And now that's all irrelevant. It doesn't matter how good he is in the movie. It is like, there is an ick factor to it. And it's, that's just kind of inescapable.
If it was one or the other, I feel like your brain would compartmentalize. The fact that it's both, I think, is the part where I kind of went, I think I need to turn this movie off. There's some good scenes in this, though.
Too many cooks in the kitchen, dude.
Yep.
That's a movie that has a lot of reverence for exactly what it is we're talking about here. For you, Andrew.
I'll leave it at that. Strong 4. An unbelievable movie, and hopefully gets to the 5.
Yeah, I just rated this on Letterboxd, and it's a 4.5 for me. I really love it. I just, I think the actual like VFX of it happening are cool. Just the whole turning the earth around, I could never get behind it. I couldn't really even get behind it as a little kid. I just remember being like, all right. So that's like the one thing, that sort of prevents me from
imagining little baby Andrew just put his hands up.
I don't buy it. I don't buy that. That's bullshit.
Look, you had me, but you lost me.
That's so funny.
But but I like literally everything about this I love. Including one moment of total horror that we didn't mention. I just want to mention it really quickly. When the two cops are tailing Otis down into the subway. Speaking of Chud, by the way, we get some subway sets here, some tunnels and shit. And Otis goes behind the wall, and the two cops are chasing them. One, I did notice for the first time, I've seen this movie 1,000 times. For the first time, I noticed one of the cops is the guy who was Dick Donner's cousin who played the captain in all the Lethal Weapon movies. And he's just got this long, like strawberry red hair kind of deal. He's almost unrecognizable. It's crazy. But the other guy is the one who gets killed. And it's this crazy thing where like the wall pushes him forward onto the tracks and the guy lets out like a very similar Pa Kent, like, oh no. And then the train runs over him. And then the guy finds the fucking hat and he's like, oh, Jerry or whatever. Like, it is wild. There's some dude in the next stop down the subway line, you know, in pieces. It's a wild thing that like they really hold on in the movie in a non-campy yet very horrific kind of way, and I really love it. But yeah, I totally love this movie, and Christopher Reeve, oh yeah, man, just like the best to ever play this character, and probably will be the best to ever play this character. It's a great movie.
Hell yeah. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up for Superman here. We're going to be right back, and you're going to want to stick around because we are going to be talking about Supergirl.
Alexander Solkine presents the action-packed adventures of a dazzling new superhero, starring Peter O'Toole.
I must be sent to the Phantom Zone.
Faye Dunaway, Mia Farrow,
Venus? When?
Brenda Vaccaro, Mark McClure.
That's Clark Kent's cousin.
Art Bachner. And introducing Helen Slater as Supergirl. Adventure runs in the family.
All right, we are back and we are talking Supergirl, the 1984 adventure fantasy superhero film directed by, oh my God, I had a moment where Andrew said this for me and I could have just learned the lesson right there.
I got to internalize.
Jeannot Szwarc? Please say it.
I said Jeannot Szwarc, but you guys are the
Jeannot
Canadians,
Szwarc.
so I feel you have the upper hand. I don't know.
No, trust me, how bad I am at pronunciating names outranks being Canadian at this point.
Yeah. I'll say this. I know that my partner in crime on We Hate Movies, Eric Siska, his name also starts with an SZ. So we say Siska, so maybe this is Szwarc. Although someone from Poland one time wrote us an email and said that Eric pronounces his own name wrong and scolded him for it and said that he should be Shishka. So maybe this is Jeannot Szwarc. I don't know, but I do know that this dude, on top of directing this movie, also directed Jaws 2.
That's right.
That's right.
So he's got that going for him.
Very important.
Yeah, and he brings the exact same level of substitute television director who can provide you with good enough copycat job without maybe some of the magic or the soul of what you were previously watching. But
you remember, you remember that gag on The Simpsons where they go to buy a new TV and they drive to like a way far out like outlet mall and they have all the brand names like Sorny and Magnet Box. Like Supergirl is the Magnet Box of the WB Superman universe.
100%.
They hired a Frenchman to do it, and it's not as insane as you would expect a Frenchman to do it. That every time I think about what the French would do to franchises, I think about Jamie's review of Alien 4, which was that like the French are out of their fucking mind. Yeah.
3 stars, by the way. 3 stars.
Oh hell yeah, dude. At the very least, I will say there is something very French kept in this movie. I thought I was watching a Gerard Depardieu comedy. The fact that Jimmy Olsen, the working adult in Metropolis, is coming to this town for the long weekend to hang out with teenage girls from the private school. What are you doing?
Stop that, brother.
You are touching the third rail, Olsen. I'll tell you right now, dude.
Yeah, we were talking about some of the stuff and just the slight moments in the 70s Superman, and with this one, it has a few more. We'll just say that a few more moments. Like even one of the plots, like kind of a subplot, I guess the romantic part of this whole thing is like she's playing a schoolgirl and she's into a yard worker guy who, you know, he's probably in his early 20s, but that's still very questionable. So it's just the fact that, you know, there are some strange things with this. Then there's like the potential sexual assault scene, which we'll get to. And like, there's just
that's
some
one of the
weird
weirder
things.
scenes. You know what? I'm looking at this guy right here, Mr. David Ordell, written by here, Mr. David Ordell, the guy who wrote Frank Oz and Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal, and later on would write Dolph Lundgren's He-Man Masters of the Universe movie, which I'd say, yeah, like, that connection is pretty noticeable here. Pretty clunky, pretty clunky 80s franchise writing going on here, as he was adapting the 1959 introduced comic book character by Otto Binder and Al Plastino. And of course, we should mention starring newcomer at the time, Helen Slater, as the titular Supergirl, the cousin of Superman, and similarly surrounded by some recognizable supporting actors. You could tell they had a formula at a certain point where they were like, you look, Brando and Glenn Ford won't do it. Call up Peter O'Toole. Call up Faye Dunaway. What are they doing these days? You know?
Boy, I'll tell you what, they were regretting calling up Faye Dunaway, as it turned out. There is not a person involved with this movie who had a good thing to say about working with her on it. Good Lord.
Oh, really?
No.
Like it was just hard to work with?
Little diva-tastic, apparently, as many on-set reports.
I mean, honestly, kind of works for the role.
Definitely works for the role.
Oh, yeah.
This is a very diva-style role. But before we get into that, this is technically, by the way, because we are skipping here, this is the fourth film in what became the incredibly financially lucrative Superman franchise here, sparked by the success of the original. Richard Lester's Superman 2 and 3 coming out in 1980 and 1983 with just a little bit of diminishing returns, both in terms of box office and critical reception as they went along. Superman 2 in particular, I think, being good, but suffering from, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the sort of troubled sort of production of being half filmed simultaneously with the original, until Donner was like, fuck this shit, I hate the Salkinds, and got fired and replaced by Lester, resulting in a number of crew and cast members, as Andrew mentioned, like either refusing or just being too busy to do the scheduled reshoots 2 years later to complete the remainder of the film. It's worth noting. So you'll watch scenes and you'll be like, oh, Margot Kidder literally looks like a different person between two different shots. And those are just things you're going to have to reckon with are in that movie, which despite that still has some redeeming qualities. Like Reeve and Kidder are both still good. They do have that rom-com and sort of chemistry together. And there is a section of that movie before they get to the bullshit at the very end where he hypnotically erases her memory, where they're actually trying to figure out like this, what a normal domestic relationship with a superhero might even look like. And it becomes a little moving. And the whole thing in Spider-Man 2 where they're like, is he going to give up his powers to be human and have a normal life? That almost seems lifted directly from that movie. That movie also has General Zod in full swing and Terrence Stamp's performance there, which I will say, Hackman's Luthor is very fun. He is well served by being the eccentric, like secondary villain of the movie. And General Zod is a much more exciting villain to actually get into action sequences with and do the sort of fish out of water comedy that he does in that movie. And that movie also is like, we're going to do a series of, as the formula of this series became pretty apparent, they were like, what other landmarks can we fuck with?
Yes.
Can Superman, knock over the Eiffel Tower, or can he fly around Niagara Falls?
Now, my question for you though, are you a Lester cut guy or are you a Donner cut guy? How do you guys feel? Have you seen both?
I don't know.
I've never seen
both.
the Donner cut. I've only seen the Lester cut, which I think has issues with it, but I do enjoy it. Like I enjoy even the mess of it because there's just enough in there that I like. But I know with the Donner cut, what they finished that like decades later, right? And it still has Lester footage in it, but it's like edited differently to be more like what his original was supposed to look like.
There's some of it that are alternate edits. It came out in 2006 and I think it's better. I mean, because you've got so like you don't and when he goes to the Fortress of Solitude, like you don't have the mother doing that. They were able to get the Brando footage. So it's
because Brando was still working with Donner.
Yeah.
Right?
And so what happened was when they went to release Superman 2, he was like, I refuse to let you use the footage of me. Like that was with Dick Donner You have this other guy doing the movie,
right.
and
or
so they
pay
couldn't
me
do it.
an exorbitant amount of money.
Could have been that also. Like, however it went down, it was like Warner Brothers couldn't get the footage or couldn't use it legally, so they had the woman who played his mother come back in. Susanna York, I think, is the woman's name. Maybe?
Right. Yeah.
So she does all that stuff that explains, like, hey, you know, if you give up your powers, Superman, this, that, and the other thing's going to happen. That's all Brando that's doing that. You also lose the garbage. I really don't like the Eiffel Tower sequence in that movie.
No.
Instead, you get to see a little more of like what's going on here with it's one of the missiles from the first movie that Superman throws up into space is what knocks them out of the Phantom Zone. In the theatrical cut, it's the bomb that the terrorists have in the Eiffel Tower, where Superman throws the whole elevator into space.
It makes a lot more sense because Jamie mentioned too in his version, right, that he flew by on his way to Earth, the Phantom Zone. So it's funny that all the stuff is there. Like, you know,
it's all there. Yeah.
Okay.
Her Superman purity test is also a great. In the theatrical, she throws herself in the river at Niagara Falls. They still go to Niagara Falls in the movie, but that doesn't happen. Her purity test is earlier. She literally throws herself out the office window at the Daily Planet, being like, hey, I know you're Superman and you're going to catch me. And she jumps out the window. And like Superman has to do some creative, I'm using my powers, but dressed as Clark Kent to save her, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's stuff in it that just kind of moves and grooves in a way that you sort of know, like, yeah, this is what they actually wanted to do with it the whole time.
Did you know, by the way, that at the time when 2 came out, I didn't know this until I was reading the reviews for it after rewatching it this week, that like people, like some of the big critics like Cale and Dave Kerr and stuff, they were like, the sequel's better. Like Lester brought, like they were like, Lester brought some like real adult, like, you know, like they're having real adult emotional problems and they're fleshed out characters and like all that, like they were really all in on that. And then they watched the third one and they were like, maybe Lester wasn't quite as much of a
I'll tell you, I think here's why they were skewed towards the second one is better, because they were all pissed off that of all the film critics in the United States working at the time, they chose Rex Reed to play himself as the film critic at the Daily Planet in that first movie. And they were all like, oh, man, like Pauline Kael was like, oh, Rex Reed got to be in the Superman movie, huh? And then so 2 is like, oh, there's no film critic. It's instantly better. We didn't mention Rex Reed when we were talking about the Superman 78, so I had to shoehorn it in there because it is a ridiculous ass moment.
This is going to be comprehensive, you know. but that's just it. Is so part of the reason we're setting this up is because Supergirl is a direct response to the fact that 2 made a lot of money, but people did notice, I think, the messiness of the troubled production that happened, and they were unsure what to credit Donner with, because there was a lot in it that is consistent and faithful with the first film, and then there's a bunch of other stuff in it that does feel they're leaning more into a sort of campier direction. Where are we going with this? And it was all those fears were kind of confirmed with Superman 3, which was an entirely Lester misfire that made the mistake of, one, getting rid of Margot Kidder. They remove her for basically the entire movie, replace her with Annette Toole's Lana Lang, which is a huge betrayal. They replaced
But I'll tell you
Hackman.
what, Annette O'Toole is Lana Lang, not too shabby. Just
you know, they knew what they were doing. They were like, we'll throw this up, and they'll like this.
Wasn't Supergirl also supposed to make an appearance in the third one, and then they deleted it or something like that? That's what I read.
They were trying to already reduce the budgets because they were concerned about the fact that the second one made less money, and they had a whole thing with Brainiac 2 they were going to do that they ended up cutting. And you'll be surprised to learn that what they put instead is because Hackman wouldn't come back anymore, so they were like, there's no more Lex Luthor. We're going to do this whole thing with Richard Pryor as like a goofy down on his luck computer programmer who gets like blackmailed into helping out billionaire Robert Vaughn control the supply of like coffee beans and like oil. And a lot of that movie is Richard Pryor doing like Jerry Lewis shtick or hanging out in like a Bond villain lair with supercomputers and lasers and cyborgs.
We did an episode on this 1,000 years ago, and I haven't rewatched it since, but you just jogged my memory of the scene where he is pretending to be drunk to screw over the security guard, and he's got like a big suitcase full of booze or something, and he gets like wasted with the guy. Oh man, yeah, that movie sucks.
There's so many scenes of Richard Pryor that like they clearly handed. He's a funny guy, but they clearly handed him scenes that were like, the joke is that you're in them, and like, bro, like make them funny. Yeah.
The best thing to come out of Superman 3 is that they do the scam that Richard Pryor does in this movie as the scam they do in the movie Office Space, and like references it as such, which is great. Like when Peter explains to the guys like, this is the plan or whatever, and then the other guy's like, oh wait, yeah, that's just the plot of Superman 3, right? The fact that like Mike Judge was able to take that silly idea from that horrible movie and put it in his inarguable masterpiece, Office Space, I think is great.
Agreed.
Yeah,
totally agree.
Yeah, well, and I will say there's one aspect of Superman 3 that I kind of enjoy, which is that Superman gets corrupted by some synthetic kryptonite at one point. He turns into like an evil bad boy version of himself, which is a fun idea, and Reeve does have like a lot of fun with it in his performance, like growing out his stubble and fucking with the Olympic torch ceremony and straightening the leaning tower of Pisa, getting drunk in a bar at one point, just getting down and dirty with the blonde bimbo girlfriend of the villain. And they kind of treat, unfortunately, like kind of a cool idea as just a series of like cheesy jokes that they're going to engage with. But it is worth it to watch Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent literally strangle Christopher Reeve as evil Superman, and then come out the other side of it. Like, there's some fun stuff. But
what is the what's the thing that it makes him? They add, isn't it like nicotine to the synthetic kryptonite, and that's what like makes it bad, because they were still on that, like, there was an anti-smoking bent again after the second one had a very pro-smoking moment. Isn't it nicotine that makes him evil?
There's a whole bunch of different percentages of stuff, but it definitely is meant to be like a you don't know what's in what you're smoking kind of deal. Like there's all these different chemicals, and there's at one point where Richard Pryor can't identify one. He just writes tar ?
Yes, I think maybe that's what I was thinking. Yes, tar. Very funny.
He just has no fucking idea. But unfortunately, like regardless, people not really liking the third one very much, and it not making any like very much money is what led to them opting to be like, we need to re-energize, we need to come up with a spin-off, and it resulted in this film, which was a reviled bomb for the entire franchise. It did even worse for them, and it resulted in, as Andrew set up at the beginning of the show, them giving up and selling the rights to Superman to the Cannon Group and Golan Globus, who were at the time essentially bankrupting themselves and basically bankrupted Cannon by making trying to get into the studio blockbuster game with Superman 4, which ended up becoming the final nail in the coffin of this entire franchise. And if you believe what people say online, which you shouldn't always do, and I'm going to be very upfront about that. But it doesn't feel like a coincidence that in 1985 they literally killed Supergirl. Even in the comics, they were like, she's done. That was when Crisis on Infinite Earths run came out, and they were there's a lot of people who are like, did this movie literally poison the well on Supergirl as a character, to the point where they were like, we're gonna retcon her existence.
That's amazing. I did not know that happened. Poor Supergirl.
You know how she dies? I'm just curious. I don't know.
Oh, do you know what? I've actually not read the full story, so I don't know.
Just be curious if it was like a brutal death or something.
We're gonna fucking we're gonna cathartically annihilate Supergirl.
Like, what is the canonical death of Chewbacca in the old EU is like a fucking planet falls on him or something like that. I think that's right. Or maybe that's another Wookiee that a planet falls on. But like, I just feel like it was something where it's like, Kara Zor-El died on her way back to her home planet. Like a real Poochie thing. Like, just get this out of here.
Yeah, we're just,
so apparently she sacrifices herself. She charges up and essentially becomes a bomb.
Okay, well, at least something like virtuous with it.
Yeah, they did apparently give her an incredibly like pivotal emotional moment in the story. So.
That's good.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
That is good. It might have been a cynical reason to do it, but at least they gave her something that seems kind of true to her character and everything.
Right.
Not just decapitate her.
Yeah, well, clearly this film just didn't have the effect that they hoped. They were like, this is going to re-energize the franchise. Audiences are getting bored with Superman sequels. And Reeve was too, honestly, as he was originally supposed to have an important like supporting role and mentor character in this, and then opted
He's like, nah.
He opted to not even do like a tiny cameo for the movie. He's written off in like a single radio news broadcast saying, Superman is off on a peacekeeping mission in another galaxy.
And I think that's I think what they are talking about in Superman Returns. That's his trip, I think.
Oh, that's
like
interesting. Okay,
he's heard something about possibility of people from his planet, and he's got to go check it out on some mission. And then
I never considered that Supergirl was canon in Superman Returns. Damn.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess it could be. I'm certainly not going to write Bryan Singer a letter asking him. So let's just say yes.
Yeah, it is official now.
Let's just say they had a hard time getting people interested in this because even Richard Lester, who had served as backup director for the franchise and had taken over 2 and when Donner, when he had fought with the producers and did 3, he wanted nothing to do with this film. They even approached, and this is such a funny little detail, they approached Robert Wise, who is a guy we've talked to many times on this show. Specifically because he's so famous as like one of the, like, if your studio project is in trouble, he will literally save it. Is the
Right.
setup going wrong? Is West Side Story going wrong? He will turn it into one of the best films you've ever seen. And he was like, "Yeah, sorry, I can't save Supergirl. You're gonna need to go to the call up the French guy who did like some Rockford Files episodes or something. He just did Jaws 2. It's a good enough carbon copy that made money. It's kind of what you're looking for, right? So see what he's up to." And
it is
that was what they did.
It is kind of like what you get right in the beginning too when you're introduced to the planet. What the first thing I noticed was that it does look cheaper for sure, but I didn't think it looked bad, and I was still kind of like, okay, this set design is still kind of
it's still a $35 million movie, which if you want to compare to what Cannon did with the movie when they cut the budget down to like $15 million, and you're just like, oh, they're not even shooting in a location, and no.
Yeah, because I was just expecting when I saw, like, I think on Letterboxd it has a 2.0, so most people are wanting and doing this thing. I was just expecting maybe just a bigger disaster. I don't think this movie is good.
Just go deep into the depths, really. Like if you like watch Supergirl and watch Superman 4 back to back, and you will at some point in your brain you will go, you know what? That's a nice looking Popeyes. That's a real Popeyes.
You bet your ass that's a nice looking Popeyes. Oh, hell yeah, dude. My God, the majesty of that Popeyes chicken stand.
And that's a real excavator just like flying through it, you know, which is, I will say, one of the first moments that's meant to be like the impressive action sequence in this movie where I went, oh, okay. It's not like a famous landmark being destroyed anymore. They have the Supergirl scale is not necessarily doing justice to the fact that they're saying she has all the same powers as Superman, and everyone goes, "Wow, you're just like Superman, but you're a beautiful blonde woman." That's really confusing for me.
It's a gigundo letdown, right? When she comes to Earth and she's flying around, and she flies to Chicago, and I'm like, "Oh, rad." Beautiful city. Look at this. Supergirl's going to find her home here in Chicago. And like, it is so funny that most of this movie takes place like just outside in whatever the shit Illinois. Like, so we don't have to do like any sort of city sets or anything like that. It's all just like this town that's got like 2 roads to it. Like out in the boonies, kind of filming in fields and stuff. It's a total fake out. I wanted her to be running around the Windy City a little more.
Oh, for sure. And I guess you could say like her dealing with something more small scale could at least give way to just other interactions that you wouldn't normally get if you were just in a huge city like New York or whatever. But what do they call it in what's the city? I thought isn't it
Metropolis.
Yeah, Metropolis, right? So that I thought was at least maybe something that they could work with, and I guess technically they kind of do with like the rapist truckers and whatever else.
Sure. Yeah. It's a real slice of life.
Yeah, we're a long ways away from the original writers being like, "Hey, I saw that Fritz Lang movie in theaters recently. What should we name our New York?" I don't know. Now it's like we got trucker rapists wearing A&W t-shirts. There's a lot of product placement.
Oh, the A&W product placement. Holy shit. She gets thrown into like 4 different A&W vending machines in this movie. I gotta tell you, I wanted an ice cold root beer after I watched this. I really did.
Yeah,
it worked.
I definitely wanted
and some fucking Popeye's chicken. Give me a big ass plate of chicken and a mug of cold A&W. Hell yeah, Supergirl product placement.
Yeah,
oh
it's a little unfortunate because there are moments where you can see something that like could have worked here. You could see them kind of being like, maybe we should go back to basics. We should have an opening where we're on like the alien planet here of I guess here it's a city. It's a Argo City, which is an almost Planet of the Apes or like Zardoz looking location, apparently in inner space, which is made up of a sort of community of Kryptonian survivors who also escaped during the blast from the original film. And we meet Kara or Zor-El, and again Helen Slater as Supergirl here, who hangs out with the founder of the city, who is, and I'm this is 100% true, a wizard named Zoltar, played by Lawrence of Arabia himself, Peter O'Toole, who is really unfortunately stranded between 2 tones of 2 different movies, which is that he's meant to be replacing the Marlon Brando, you're kind of doing this epic science fiction thing, but
the wisdom. Like he's giving her wisdom, and he's the kind of the
but mentor. The movie, like you can kind of feel everyone involved in this feels like they know what they're making, and they don't have the Donner sense of like, we are going for the grandiosity of this. It does feel like, isn't this all a bit silly? You know, there's a little bit of condescension in the way to how it approaches doing this stuff. And even though they are being like, we're going to build a set and it's going to be cool sci-fi wizard shit, and we're going to send her to Earth, and doesn't this remind you of Superman? And I was like, yeah, there's a little, the magic's missing.
Yeah, it's like, and it's hitting the beats. It does the thing where she's like, she is kind of forced to leave, and then she goes through this kind of, psychedelic space montage in a way as she transforms into
the setup is also super funny that she hits a dragonfly with a wand and it ends up losing the omegahedron,
a dragonfly that she made with that wand, by the way. Is what's going on here. Because all this like magic shit, it's just like, and now so like these Kryptonians are doing magic and Faye Dunaway's doing magic with that British guy, and it's like,
was magic just really in?
I don't understand it, right? And I really want to know what was the year on that that Ewoks movie where it's the same thing. There's just like an evil witch in it's Ewoks Caravan of Courage, or maybe it's I don't remember which one it is, but like she's just a witch and she's like casting spells and stuff, and it's not like sort of later things of Star Wars where we've seen like witches and it's just like that's the way they're referred to, but they're just force sensitive people. It's that Ewok movie isn't doing that. She's just an evil witch doing spells. And so like that happens in this movie. And I was like, again, with the wands and shit, this is about like aliens and, superheroes and villains and stuff, not this spell casting.
And I will say Dunaway is doing a very like over the top hammy theatrical, like it honestly, she kind of reminds me of like Belonging in a Witch from Hocus Pocus, that family movie or whatever. And like I liked the Krypton or that inner space place that they were at in the beginning. And I think that the set design is kind of cool and intricate.
It's
and
the
very
wink,
strange.
not Krypton.
Exactly. Yeah. But when you get to Dunaway's place and her like apartment thing, it looks like a Halloween store setup. Like it is. The set I thought was really.
I mean,
bad.
she does literally live in an amusement park.
She's living in an amusement park haunted house. It's insane. That's for sale. I think like it was an actual property that was for sale, and they were filming in it.
And so, that's my mistake, because that makes sense within the context of the film. But I guess just when you see it, and the way that they frame it, it feels.
No, you're still right. I know that you're saying sorry, but no, you're still right. It's just it's not a good excuse that they were like the best place. She should have like a crazy mansion or something, or like she should have a cool lair. But instead, they were like, I don't know. We found this like amusement park in Illinois. They'll let us shoot there.
The set of it looks like she is hosting a really bad local TV like like horror marathon kind of thing. Like she's on the set of like a Sven Gulli situation, and she's going to be like, coming up next, a bone-chilling feature. Like that's what the set looks like.
And she, and to be honest, her acting is like that too. So it's kind of
she's acting like Rita Repulsa from the fucking Power Rangers, dude. Like that. This performance is, and I want to go on record. I'm not anti-witch. I love a good witch movie. I don't like witchcraft in my superhero movie. That's
dude. I'm so glad you said that, because if you didn't, we definitely would have had people being like, I know, Andrew would have burned witches.
No, yeah, exactly. And no. All love to witch cinema of all kinds, but just not.
Also,
in
shout
my
out
Cape
production
Crusader
designer. Richard McDonald, who we are shitting all over right now. This dude did The Servant for Joseph Losey, and also did Altered States.
Oh wow, yeah, like so he is a very talented person. And the thing is too, like,
he's working with what money was given him.
Yeah, I think half of this movie looks really good when it comes to set stuff, and then the other half doesn't. So the talent is still there sometimes.
Yeah, well, because I was gonna say, once again, the technician work, cinematography, Alan Hume, the guy who did the Roger Moore Bonds, including For Your Eyes Only, Octopussy, View to Kill, also did Return of the Jedi for George Lucas, Life Force for Toby Hooper, his huge canon film about sexy space vampires, shot on 65 millimeter, by the way, and also this guy shot Runaway Train. Which is like one of my favorite 80s like thrillers with tons of crazy train stunt action. So it's really disappointing that they didn't give this guy money to like shoot an impressive action sequence, because I mean he does his best. Like you go, that excavator's going through that fucking gas station, but like that is the kind of the extent of the excitement that happens in the movie, because the rest of it is when she lands on Earth, she goes through the sort of psychedelic light show trip through space. She gets to do, sort of her moment where she gets to first land. And I will say I did enjoy the shot where she flies out of the water like the Excalibur sword rising from the water. But in here she, and credit to Slater. She, similarly to Reeve, she does look the part. She can wear that costume. She's got the big blonde hair, and watching her get on the wire work and do like the sort of dance, the more dance like flying like around the forest.
It's very ballet. It's very cool.
Yeah. You can feel them trying here when she's flying alongside wild horses, and it's scored again. The score here, it's not John Williams, but it's fucking Jerry Goldsmith, who did fucking Planet of the Apes and Chinatown and Alien, and
one of the absolute best to ever do it.
Yeah, and he was the one who was supposed to do the original, because he did The Omen for Donner, and the only reason he didn't do Superman is because he was busy with Alien. So
I feel like Slater does have that sincerity that's necessary for the character.
Absolutely.
I honestly think she's good. I think she's really good in this.
This movie adorably straight. Yeah. And I do think that I don't know necessarily how much better it would have been if they did, play it that way, but she is kind of undermined by the fact that the movie is not being played straight by a lot of people making it, and it's kind of stranding her to be the only one who's doing it.
Right. Yes. And it feels like if she didn't do that, it really wouldn't have worked too. So it's this weird thing where I think she actually made the right decision or whatever was going on. But the director, and even if he directed her to do this, he wasn't directing the rest of the film to work around that. So it just, I don't think it's her
totally
fault.
Stands out anytime they have to cut to like Faye Dunaway, who, again, they were trying to follow the similar formula of the first film, where they were like, we're going to hire
silly, right?
a really acclaimed actress who was in fucking, again, speaking of Bonnie and Clyde connection, there she is. And she was obviously in Chinatown as well. And they were like, we're going to look, if you have Faye Dunaway rocking some sort of classy, sort of diva outfits, and she's doing this really hammy sort of like wicked stepmother type performance and stuff like that. Like you can see the sort of attempt at like a feminist villain angle here. I think you could argue it's just one of those things that it's like, oh, it just reminds me of like someone who would have been, like in a fucking Power Rangers show, or would have been on one of the campy television show versions of like, this could have been a Supergirl TV show, and she could have been a villain of the week. It didn't need to be a movie that as at all connected to, any of the previous Superman movies.
And I think like, I don't love these things, like the whole, the Razzies and all that shit. I think that's, I really hate that kind of cynicism. But just to clarify, like what happened when this movie was released, like the worst actress and worst actor, they got nominated, which was Dunaway and O'Toole, but Slater was actually nominated for a Saturn Award for Best Actress. So it did seem like the people that were around,
the fans liked her.
The fans liked her. I don't think they liked this movie, but they did seem to at least pick up on the fact that she was trying her best to really embody that same kind of Reeves energy that she's supposed to with this kind of character. So
the one thing with the performance that is weird for me, and I noticed this the last time I watched it too. We did an episode on this 100 years ago, and the start of it, did you guys get the vibe that like she's supposed to be playing younger than she physically is? Because like as Peter O'Toole's like explaining stuff to her and she sits on the floor with the wand, she sits like a little child would sit on the floor, and she's got this like head tilty curiosity as she's like looking at it, and it's not, I mean, she's not acting like an adult. It's very strange, and she doesn't do that in any other part of the movie. Even when she's playing like she's going undercover as a high school student, like she's not acting any different than she acts through the rest of the movie. But the beginning is so weird. She's got this infantile vibe to it that is very off-putting.
Yeah, I'm curious if maybe it was like because we don't know the order of which
might have just been inconsistent directing.
Yeah,
very well.
It's like the set when they were doing the set days of when they're on that planet. It was just it was kind of a different vibe, and then once they got to Earth, maybe she did this kind of transformation that isn't.
Well, they were like, you need to get into like a romantic thing with like a shirtless hunk, and it's like, well,
who's older too. Like it's that I was mentioning it earlier. It's this strange thing where it's like, he's clearly working for the school, so he has to be an adult, and she's undercover as a high school student. And so to make this the romantic connection is, I don't know, it's a choice. I'll say that, especially for something that's like Supergirl, where there is
even though in the writing you can tell, because like again, it is them going for like this feminist angle of we're going to objectify the male character, we're going to make him a bit of a damsel throughout the movie, and she's going to save him a couple different times. Like you can see the sort of the more good-natured thing they're trying to do, but it just the tone of the movie is so inconsistent that you can't tell whether this is like a movie that
a joke or
that's what I think really hurts it, is you can't tell if this is meant to be like taken at all sincerely or straight, because the things that there's a couple moments where it's like, the Jerry Goldsmith sort of wonder of the score hits in and she flies around and you're like, this is meant to, and then it will just hit you with like really, really campy schlock. And then sometimes when you're watching a scene, you almost can't give it the benefit of the doubt, because you're like, is this a feminist subversion of the genre, or is this like a joke on its own existence that we are making a feminist subversion of the genre? And it just kind of hurts it every time.
It's strange to have those moments of like where it's almost you can't tell where it's making fun of itself, but then at the same time you have moments with Slater where she's walking around and doing like, again, this very sincere thing where she's like touching flowers and they're blossoming, and it's this more kind of, I guess, like a feminine way of looking about her powers that she has, because Superman was just running again on the side of a train, and where she seems to be more delicate with what she's doing, even the way that she was flying, like we were saying, there's a difference there. But then it almost feels like in moments the movie is like not on board with her character, and that's so strange to undermine Supergirl, because that's who we're here for. And
and honestly, I felt that instantly after the scene that follows its attempt at doing the sort of wholesome and magical like first flight sequence. It's such an important part of like any of these movies. When they first land on Earth, they first figure out what the powers are, they first depict it. It's and they try to make it a sort of beautiful moment in this movie. And she immediately touches down in Chicago. And maybe this is realistic, I don't know, but the dirtbag rapist truckers are immediately there, and it's played for a weird comedy of a fish out of water comedy that she can't tell that they're rapists. Like that's what the joke is. And that they're like, oh, look at this outfit she's wearing, and she can't tell she's being objectified. She's just fucking landing on Earth. She doesn't know that she's in like a very tight outfit. It's not something she's thinking about. And that's the joke. It's a really weird joke. And it even ends with her like, obviously physically overpowering the two guys, and then the two guys going, oh bro, don't bring this up with the fellas, okay? Like that's fucking embarrassing.
Yeah, it's best we didn't tell anybody about this or whatever. Yeah,
like that, like the embarrassing aspect of it is funny just because you want those characters to be humiliated by what they just did, but it also feels so strange to give them the comedy beat and be like, like, hey boys, we're not going to tell them what just happened there. Ha ha ha. Like it still feels gross. Cause again, we're supposed to be from the perspective of Supergirl. And even the thought of her not being aware of like perverts and dealing with that, I think could still be done. It's just, I thought that this was like very misplaced and in poor taste for the most part. And
it's just weird that it, oh, sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead.
It's just weird that it ends with that, like, we can't tell the fellas about this. Especially when, like, just like seconds before that in the scene, she goes, like, why would you do that? When he like touches her or something like that. And he goes, it's just the way we are. Like this really creepy fucking line. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm supposed to be laughing at Don't Tell the Fellas. It's just, it's so weird. And I should say the guy who does most of that creepiness, the thinner guy, is Matt Frewer, who he's a great character actor. You might remember he's Big Russ in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He's like the neighbor dad. And he's in the Zack Snyder Dawn of the Dead.
I was just looking at this. Yeah, he's Moloch. Okay.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
I didn't even recognize
Matt
him.
Frewer, awesome character actor, and I forgot he was in this, and I was like, oh, he's playing one of the scuzzy rape guys. Oh, Frewer.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah. And either way, that was just like the immediate sort of like you couldn't figure out the tone. Like, are we doing a legitimate look at Supergirl's magical flight, or are we doing? Wouldn't it be crazy if Supergirl didn't know what a rapist was like? Right. And like that's and it's like that's a 1-2 punch. In like 30 seconds, it makes that transition. And that's kind of where the tonal weirdness of this movie becomes hard to register, even when it is doing some stuff that's not, that's relatively fun. Like I don't mind the section, even though you do wonder what the intent of it all is or how the people making it feel about it. But like the section where she's like, I'm going to go to this all girls sort of high school and I'm going to fabricate my identity and I'm going to hang out with Lois Lane's like sporty younger sister, Lucy, played by Maureen Teefy in this movie. And there is a great moment where she sees the poster of Superman on the wall and it does this really big, like tilt up it of them like looking up at him. And again, like they'll indulge a moment of like clear sincerity like that. And then they will be, let's get into some schoolgirl antics, which is the stuff where it'd be like, yeah, maybe Supergirl would like get it, like play field hockey and have cruel shower pranks played on her. And, maybe you could have dropped like the stuffing her bra thing, but
I also didn't mind, like, again, it kind of, this is a better version of what they were doing with when she meets the rapist, is that she goes into the office of the principal and then he's just like, hey, you should knock first. And she goes, oh, okay. And then just like walks out and then knocks again.
That's a real, like, you're an alien kind of thing.
Yeah. So that felt to me just more wholesome and kind of in line with what I was expecting when she was the fish out of water thing. I've seen that joke been done before for sure, but it's again, more wholesome. And I think that's what we're kind of looking for here.
It's totally, it's tonally weird how like she's in the locker room like after the field hockey practice or whatever, and like she's having the shower, she has her period and she doesn't know what's going on and freaks out, and then all those girls throw tampons. Oh shit, that's Carrie. I'm sorry. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. Mixing up my
dude, for a second there I was like, dude, did you watch the 3-hour
director's cut?
Oh god.
There are 3 cuts to this, so I was like, hey, maybe they went Carrie mode for a second there. That's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's just, I really do think that is just the like, you have to be on your guard for tonal switches like that watching the entire movie at a certain point. And then like they are doing, again, all of this cross-cutting with Faye Dunaway's Selena, who again is an aspiring witch who has the doodad object crash land in front of her that it's never really explained exactly what its power is or how she
specifically it's like
it just makes her good at casting spells, so she casts spells.
But like Peter O'Toole says that it's a power source that keeps the city that he built going. And that's why she has to like find it and get it back. So like,
but he gets sent to the Phantom Zone for losing it.
It's one of those weird objects.
He's self-exiled, yes.
Yeah.
It's one of those weird objects where it feels like they don't want to, like in a fantasy movie where they don't want to really have specific rules to it. So they just go like, it's powerful. It's
right.
magic.
Yes.
And whoever holds onto it, your will.
I really hope it doesn't fall into the hands of a world dominating, aspiring witch.
Yeah.
That would be like a really big problem.
Here we are.
Who mostly doesn't do a whole lot with it. She kind of just like hangs out with her witch roommate, Bianca, played by Brenda Vaccaro of Midnight Cowboy and Capricorn 1 fame. And they mostly are just kind of two divas together who hang out in a spooky goth girl amusement park and, you know, have like mixers with steaming mad science lab looking cocktails and
whatever that like
potions.
Swinger mixer that she's hosting at the beginning of the movie is really something. There's like tropical drinks getting passed out. I was like, hell yeah.
I had such a hard time with this because I was like, again, I guess it's similar critique to the first movie, but I was like, how is any of this related to what Supergirl is doing other than they have the object she's looking for, which I guess, you know, that's just good screenwriting right there. I don't know.
And there is, and then they also do things, I guess, with the witchcraft. Like there's one moment, I think this is when they're trying to make Ethan, who's the yard worker, fall in love with Faye Dunaway. Eventually he ends up falling in love with the Supergirl because of the spell. But before that, when she's making the potions, she's just doing random things like putting a spider in a nut and then putting it into soup. And that, like, it's just the most random shit ever.
Fucking with a girl at the party who's flirting with her British professor boyfriend, Nigel, played by Peter Cook, who she doesn't even like and doesn't want to be with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a
jerk.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it feels very just all over the place and disconnected unless you're with Supergirl, and that is just because, you know, you're with the main character who's kind of experiencing all of this for the first time, and we don't really get that a lot with Superman because his origin story is like you have him as a teenager and he's going through that, but then it's very quick, and then you get to him being experienced in the world. So I found every interesting part of this to just be from the perspective of Supergirl, because that's where you're locked into this new experience for her. And
I think also like what you're saying, Jamie, is totally right. But I think it's also because like in Superman, when you're not with either Superman or Clark Kent, there's still characters there that you're invested in and care about and, you know, are interested in seeing on screen. And when Supergirl's not on screen in this movie, you're definitely saying, where's Supergirl? Because you do not want to be stuck with Faye Dunaway, Brenda Vaccaro, or, you know, just Hart Bochner walking around as Ethan. Hart Bochner, by the way, of Die Hard fame and the director of the great cult classic PCU, of all things.
What?
Yeah, dude. Hart Bochner plays in Die Hard Ellis, the dude who's doing the coke in her office, who gets his brains blown out. He's got the beard.
Sleazy executive. Yeah.
Yep. This is Ethan. Yeah, he directed PCU with Jeremy Piven.
What the hell?
It's insane. It's a really weird
story. Yeah, just bozo shirtless groundskeeper in Supergirl. What a career.
Oh my god.
And Maureen Teefy was also she was kind of big around this time because she was in Fame. So the movie of Fame, which was 4 years before this.
And hold on, and Grease 2.
Oh, yes, she's one of the pink ladies in Grease 2. That's right. But so not as many people that you kind of give a shit about. It's not a Gene Hackman kind of.
No.
It's not a Margot Kidder kind of, you know.
Yeah. Well, and you can kind of tell because they have a hard time figuring out, like, eventually you're like, okay, I guess, you know, at some point Supergirl is going to need to run into this Selena witch woman.
Right.
But the way that they eventually figure that out, it's Jimmy Olsen trying to pick up high schoolers at Popeyes. Which is, you know, again, Mark McClure, the only reprising cast member.
Oh, yeah. What a trooper.
So, he was like, I needed to show up to deface the Jimmy Olsen character. And essentially, in between using her bracelet from home to sort of fly around looking for, again, the Omega Hedron, she's like flying over baseball games. She's flying over drive-ins. She's searching without knowing. She's searching for Selena, who it turns out also likes the bozo groundskeeper, lures him into her haunted house, flaunts her legs at him, drugs him with a can of beer with some sort of magic brew in it, chases him around the city with a magic controlled excavator, which is the first real set piece of the movie, which is just destroying various cars and property, chasing and sort of retrieving this drunken hunk in the streets of a small town. It's a pretty low stakes version of any disaster sequencing you saw in the first 3 Supermen.
Oh my God.
It's just like one street
movies, you know.
Hart Bochner getting scooped up in this thing and just being like
funny,
carried around is some of the funniest shit you'll see.
Yeah, how pathetic his character is pretty funny. Like how he just does next to nothing in this.
Yes,
like at all.
He just constantly goes, "Ew, old woman," or then declares his love for Helen Slater. Those are like his 2 modes.
Yeah, the
it doesn't matter like
teenager,
which version of Helen Slater. Yeah, worth noting. But at first you could excuse it because you're like, you know what? He woke up in a drunken haze, and he's like, "Who is this blonde woman who just like saved me from a crazy downed power line and like a random tire fire that breaks out?"
Oh, right.
And isn't he supposed to be like, he's under a spell, right? So technically it's like the first girl that he sees, he falls in love with. So I understand that aspect of it. It's when they actually dive in. I was basically going, okay, so this is going to turn into one of those things where she tries to like weave around this. Like she's like, okay, I'm not interested in him, but he's very interested in me. And that will be where the comedy is. And instead they have her like actually be genuinely romantic with him and making this deep connection as the movie goes on.
Well, he's a shirtless hunk who recites poetry to her, and while Faye Dunaway is just off screen going, "No, my beautiful hunk."
yeah, that it is funny to watch Dunaway kind of just that's like her motivation and freak out.
But see, then the movie also I think I would almost credit it with it being a good joke if the movie then didn't have Bianca be like, you really shouldn't be going nuts over a landscape guy. That doesn't really make sense. Like again, the movie is aware of the fact that it's stupid, and it's like just so we're also in on how stupid this is.
Which is also why you can't really laugh with it a lot or at it even either. Yeah. Like it's not a movie I found myself, even when the moments were bad and kind of questionable, I wasn't really even like there wasn't a lot of humor involved in it. I just went, oh, that was a kind of a misstep.
Yeah. The Bianca character I think is a big problem because like if you're doing all these 1-to-1s between this and Superman, like she is the Otis to Dunaway's Gene Hackman. But like the Bianca character at all times knows better than the villain. And it's very annoying because like basically it's the villain Faye Dunaway being like, I want to do this and have a movie. And she's like, well, Faye Dunaway, that's pretty stupid for all these reasons. And we probably shouldn't, do the movie. It's like she doesn't want shit to happen. Like, and you can't be too cool for the room if you're the villain's number 2. It's so, and I nothing against Brenda Vaccaro. Like, I think she's great and she's got a lot of cool costumes in this movie. And
her and Faye Dunaway are an amusing combo of actresses. I would have liked to have seen in another movie.
Yeah, they do totally well together. But like, the movie makes a misstep in that it thinks that Brenda Vaccaro is playing a lower status character than Faye Dunaway, and she's not. They are like, performance-wise and the confidence of a character, whatever, they are equals. And if they were like an equal footing villain duo, that would be one thing. But like, it doesn't make sense that she's a number 2. She's too good to be a number 2.
Yeah, and it immediately undermines Dunaway, who, if we're going to make her the villain, you have to have something. She just becomes, because of that, she becomes stupid and pathetic and just kind of like she's and it's almost written that she's going to humiliate herself, and it's so strange because this is supposed to be the antagonist, the threat of the movie,
which is the one thing I will kind of credit Faye Dunaway with is she puts effort into making this character like intense and hysterical, she is like trying, which is maybe more than anybody else in the movie, with the exception of Helen Slater, who I think is trying.
Right. And I just wonder if you had flipped it, right? If Faye Dunaway wound up playing Supergirl's mom, and Mia Farrow got to play this role. I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah.
Mia Farrow is the mother for 2 seconds in this movie.
I did forget that because she's there for 2 seconds. Yeah,
As
wild.
Allura or whatever. But like, if she was playing this role, like, I think there would be, kind of a more interesting, less like, mustache twirly Rita Repulsa kind of character.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I did like the part where there's this like one comedy beat where it's when he, I think, is initially falling in love with Supergirl. And it didn't even seem like it was purposeful. It almost seemed like he did it on accident. They left it in. But when he gets out of the tractor, he actually smacks his head off of one of the beam grills. And it genuinely made me laugh really hard. And it kind of goes into it honestly works with his character because he's played as like the hypnotized dumbass. So
right, yeah, it totally works.
I enjoyed that. At least that was a nice beat.
I love a good "we left it in" hitting your head thing in movies, like the famous Stormtrooper, of course, in Star Wars. Like, oh man, a good clunking your noggin on something and the camera caught it. Fuck yeah,
yeah. And it honestly did seem, at least the way the shot is and the way he performed it, seemed like a genuine accident. So either way, it worked. It was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I kind of paid attention more to moments like that than I did some of the attempts at like actual set pieces in this
well,
movie.
nothing else is really going on. You see,
well, I mean, like there's a sequence where like at a certain point, Supergirl is on Selina's radar now, and who starts concentrating on casting spells in her directions using this magic cube or ball or whatever the fuck, and she's like generating a storm at one point that starts in their house, and it's like sending shit around the room, just flying in the wind, and it causes eventually a lightning storm across like the forest, and it goes towards the school, and it's the first moment where you can sense the film maybe trying to get like a little bigger, and especially too because she doesn't want all the other girls to be in danger at the school, so she like runs out to meet this invisible force, and it is just kind of this lame special effect of like a creature that ends up having like glowing with electricity, and she just holds a light post and it ends up reflecting it back at it, and
for just kind of 2 seconds you see what this thing is.
And Selena and Bianca are watching this happen like in the mirror, like the Queen in Snow White, and are just being like, well, that didn't work, that sucked, damn.
The fact that it is there, like the thing is invisible though, is one of the biggest, like, the fucking bank account is just drained. Like, like when you see the car get smushed by its foot and you're like, oh, it's supposed to be a big thing that's like a fucking kaiju coming at this school, but you're not going to see it at all because we don't have money for that. We're not going to animate a fucking huge monster walking towards her.
We are going to animate a huge monster at the very end of the film, but we're not going to do it in any way that interacts with anything that we shot. It's going to be this weird optical effect where we like stretch the film to try to convince you that a giant like demon puppet is holding Supergirl, and it is embarrassing.
It's so bad.
They also do a lot of these weird shots where it feels just strangely framed, honestly, where between Selena and is it Bianca? Yeah, Bianca, where they're doing their little monologues as they watch the mirror, but they have it framed where it's just like facing almost the camera, and it just feels almost stage-like than a film or cinematic. And I don't know, it felt just stilted and boring, and I don't know. It was a lot of this as it goes on. I think specifically Dunaway and Bianca are probably just the worst part of this, and unfortunately they are like half of it. They really spend a lot of time with it because I think they're trying to build that the villain up, but they're just doing it in such a strange way because they're constantly undermining her and making her so pathetic.
It's so funny because I think there's other people who are going to watch this movie and they're going to be like, what do you mean? Dunaway is the best part. Like, she's having the most fun.
Well, and that's the weird thing is I go like, I do love over the top performances. I mean, that's definitely something I've said over and over again on the show. But
look at this diva witch lady whose plan makes no sense, and she just gets really mad and casts spells through the whole movie. Like you could argue part of that stuff is maybe the stuff that's has a pulse.
For sure. I guess I just find it annoying. That's probably what it is.
Annoying.
Yeah.
Double-edged sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I will say it's because it depends on what you like about this movie. If you wanted and hoped for the sincere Helen Slater Supergirl, like treat Supergirl as a serious character and actually kind of do this movie well, like you're going to find that annoying because she is just doing an absolutely condescending camp performance in that movie. But if you relent and you just go, do you know what? I'm going to engage with this as a silly schlock. Then, Dunaway is the thing that's more entertaining to you. So I don't know, but that's just it. That's the thing. The movie never decides which of those things that it is.
Yeah, I just remain confused.
It has those two movies flail at each other for 2 hours. For 2 hours. Like when they eventually interact, it's like during the sequence where like Ethan and her try to go on like a date on like the teacups at like the fair ride, and he shows up with flowers and chocolate and tries to pick her up and offers to be like her fucking like in-house like husband or whatever, stay-at-home husband basically. And eventually Selena shows up, teleports him into like a rogue bumper car situation, which is again the sort of level of extreme danger in this film. It's like, oh no, Ethan's going to get hit by a bumper car.
Dude, these bumper cars with like heads of football players on them. I don't know what was going on with these bumper cars.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was straight. And I guess they're basically going back and forth between him trying to avoid the bumper cars and Supergirl and Dunaway's Selena having like kind of a magic battle in a way. Like she multiplies herself in this kind of cheap effect where she circles Supergirl, but then Supergirl gets a bunch of poles and makes like a fast motion prison out of the poles.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah.
And it, again, cutting back and forth to the guy just dodging bumper cars. So it's a
well, and then eventually like saving him in the bumper car by flying it like to a beach where Selena from a distance knocks him out with a coconut.
Yeah,
it's very strange set pieces in this movie.
And then Nigel, who is like, we haven't really talked about him, but he's this like guy that it kind of works with. He's a warlock or something that works with Selena, but they don't like each other.
Well, and he's also a professor at the all-girls school that the girls don't like because he's
That's a good line at one point when he's seen by like one of the friends or something later in the movie, and she goes, "Is that my math teacher?" That's that was a legitimate laugh. Yeah. That was a good one.
For sure. And I do like the way that they use Ethan, the fact that he gets knocked out probably 4 times in this movie is funny. By the time when that coconut hit his head and it's out of the sky, and it's the 4th time by that point, I did laugh just because of how useless his character is. And that joke itself was very funny. And then Nigel ends up, I think, unlocking the spider that I mentioned earlier that she put in a nut, which I think represented his like caged mind or some shit. And he's now broken free from the spell, but he still seems to love Supergirl, which is sus now, by the way. Officially sus.
Yeah.
Officially. No hypnosis excuse anymore, buddy.
Yep.
You're sus
well,
boy
but
now.
Also he's confused because he says that he loves Linda. He loves her alter ego. He loves the high schooler, which is the more sus thing. And you have Supergirl being like, dude, Linda's fine. Do not worry about Linda. And then he goes, wait, are you like Superman? She's like, I'm Superman's cousin. He's like, whoa.
Yeah, he's blown away.
Anyway, about that high schooler.
Also, I'm realizing it's kind of a weird, it's sort of like that movie Never Been Kissed, where like, because I think she is supposed to be like kind of older due to like the space travel and everything.
I think so, yeah.
Pretending to be, so it's like when Drew Barrymore went into that high school pretending to be a student and fell in love with Michael Vartan, the teacher, but instead in this case it's Hart Bachner, the landscape guy for the school. It's kind of like a little Never Been Kissed getting put into this Supergirl movie a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's all ruined when Peter O'Toole just starts saying squirt repeatedly. That's fucking weird.
Yeah, as soon as the fellas get involved, then Nigel's like, here, I will teach you how to teleport Ethan even from a farther distance. And, you know, they generated this giant mountain fortress in the middle of the small town where like Ethan is like chained to a fireplace. And then they send Supergirl to the Phantom Zone. And again, the little goofy like photo frame effect that they do. And she ends up very briefly in what I thought was one of the few impressive visuals in the entire film, which is when she's on like the desolate landscape of the Phantom Zone, like actually seeing what the Phantom Zone looks like, and she's like drowning in like green slime bog or whatever it is. I was like, that's actually kind of a cool image. And you know, she's eventually obviously saved by Peter O'Toole's Zoltar in this, who, you know, they have a brief moment where again they're trying to hit the sincere notes of, you know, he's kind of given up trying to escape this place, but she has the positivity to be like, you know, help me do this. And of course he gets hit by a demon storm tornado on his way down, and just dies by fireball.
They're throwing fireballs at it. And then this is what killed me too, right? It's like, so, okay, they're Faye Dunaway and Nigel, whatever the shit, are like earth-born and bound witchcraft enthusiasts. How is it they know how to conjure and indeed attack a realm of something that's based in like Kryptonian science? How are they even aware of the existence of the Phantom Zone? I don't like being plot hole guy, but this is so fucking annoying every time I watch this movie. Like, how is it that they're aware of Kryptonian things? They're just too.
They had a British nerd on their side who, you know, I don't know.
The one part I also think is really funny about being trapped in this, like when O'Toole pops up and he basically says, he's just like, there is no way out. This is the Phantom Zone. And then she goes, there's a way out if there's a way in. And then he goes, okay, there's a way. And you're like, what? Like,
dude, I know.
Why are you holding out information, brother?
It's like, oh, there's no way out of here. And she's like, oh yeah, well, what the hell's that? Oh yeah,
okay, that's a good point.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, see, this is the problem with the Peter O'Toole stuff, is that like I feel like Peter O'Toole could be trying to do like a sincere thing, but like again, the movie around him just does feel like it kind of undermines any actor who's trying to do that.
He has a good vibe of like seriousness when he's like trying to help her up and they're like trying the escape and everything.
Yeah.
In that, he's doing enough like physical stuff where I was like, okay, like you're invested in making this look like a realistic, dangerous kind of scenario. But
one of the few in the movie.
One of the few, yeah. And then he just gets hit in the face with a fucking red tornado and you never see him again. Which is very weird.
I did like that one cut to Earth, or the city at least, where it's like it almost seems like a fascist regime is taken over.
That is the thing where if they had money, I would have loved for them to have gotten to that stuff faster and actually explored that. Like when they start describing the Selena character as like, oh, she just wants to be queen and wants to own everybody and doesn't want to have friends. She wants to have like slaves. And I was like, oh, that's kind of like, I would have liked to have seen what she could, like, if she could make like a fascist Kryptonian world where she has her own police force who are beating up student protesters. That was like the one moment in the movie where I was like, damn, are they trying to like say something here? I don't know.
One of my favorite moments is when someone actually is doing like the protests and then someone stops them and they just go, it's not a good time to express yourself. I just thought I thought that line was hilarious. Especially in the context of like a fascist protest.
She's got Ethan as her little like robotic like consort, dressing him up in funky little suits, and this was like visually, this was like the one section of the movie where I was like, there was a little effort put into like conceiving what Selena's like witch rule might actually sort of like look like, even though again it's on a very small scale where it's like she dominates a small town. It has a gas station and a Popeyes.
I definitely, you know, I sat up a little bit when her secret police force was kidnapping people off the street. I thought I fucking turned the news on here in the States. Oh, it's a horrible time to exist, isn't it? God damn it.
It's good to be in this country that we're in right now. Anyway. But yeah, it's kind of like
there's no Lucy Lane and Jimmy Olsen being held above spiked cages, you know?
Oh man, these little spiked cages that they have are crazy. I realized in my notes here, I got a beef with the way Jimmy Olsen is portrayed in this movie. He's a bit on the cynical side, a little too on the all for himself side. When they see Hart Bachner walking in the street and Lois's sister is like, oh, should we go? We should go help that guy. He's clearly in trouble. He's having some sort of issue. Let's go see. And he's like, no. Like, you know, he could be dangerous or whatever. And I was like, no. Jimmy Olsen has the heart of a lion, man. He would have been like, yeah, we should see if that guy needs help. But in this, he's like, no, fuck that guy. That's dangerous. You could get hurt. And I was like, holy shit. What happened to you?
Yeah.
Just like a nasty Jimmy Olsen. It was off-putting.
It does feel like everyone is just.
Did you like it more or less than Zack Snyder executing Jimmy Olsen in the Middle East?
Well, you see, the problem was
that happened. That's so funny.
When I was watching this movie, I knew at the time that was Jimmy Olsen that happened to. When I was watching BVS, he's not mentioned as being Jimmy Olsen and is just summarily executed. And then like he had to send a tweet out that was like, by the way, that was Jimmy Olsen. And everybody was like, was it now? And then I think it's like in the extended BVS, he has like more.
He does have
moments,
like
where it's like you actually know who this person is, but like as it stood in the theatrical, some dude just got shot in the head, and I was supposed to know that it was famed comic book character Jimmy Olsen.
Shout out to Snyder.
Yeah. There he is.
Oh man,
he's always coming back. Look at what he did with those characters. You know, what can you imagine what he would have done with Selena here? You know,
oh hell yeah.
I would have actually loved to see that.
Their Supergirl versus Witch magic final
it's
fight,
like force
which
powers.
Is it's pretty unimaginative, even if it's maybe a little mildly amusing, just because again Faye Dunaway is doing so many faces and doing so much screaming and glaring in the general direction of just Slater, who's just being stoic and Supergirl.
Yeah,
I like the idea of her being like the monster grabbing her and Dunaway controlling him.
Just such a bad effect.
Her. It's just a bad effect. Yeah, it literally just looks like they took whatever shot they had and then just stretched it out like an iMovie. Like it looks bad. Like it is really low stake kind of resolution stretching. I was like, there's nothing else that you could possibly do. Even
considering we're describing a sequence where Supergirl, like where Faye Dunaway screams in a witch outfit and summons a giant demon to start tearing Supergirl apart. Like you think that would be a cool sequence, and it's kind of lame. It's kind of just lame to watch. Like the moment that hits harder is Slater just declaring that, you know, she's going to beat her with like the power of friendship and stuff, which again is them trying to get some sincere elements into here, but it's a little too late at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's like she circles Selena into like some type of like beaming light tornado thing.
She creates like a speed whirlwind that sucks
it's
her into like a mirror
tornado.
portal or something. Yeah.
And she's got all of a sudden there's a magic mirror like out of nowhere. And the two of them, Dunaway and Vaccaro, are both like, what's going on with that mirror? Like they're not aware that it was a magic mirror or it just gained magical powers or something. Like,
well, they do briefly mention it because they use it to look into. That's how they use it as like
spying on.
They're spying on her with it, because at one point they go, "Oh, look at this like cool TV." She's like, "It's not a TV, it's a mirror."
Oh, you know? Right. Oh, right. Yes.
But
this
then it's like,
TV.
the magic mirror turned against them and she tornadoes them into it, and I guess maybe sends them to the Phantom Zone or something.
Is it the Phantom Zone or is it just?
I don't know.
Well, the only thing is, I guess that mirror is pretty important because when Supergirl comes out of the Phantom Zone, she jumps through that miror. So maybe it is in the Phantom Zone.
Or just like, why would it be connected? Yeah, it doesn't matter, I guess.
Yep.
But it does feel like if they're doing that, it would be the reverse, that they're in the Phantom Zone now. I think that makes sense.
But like, if that's the case, though, I need to see them like in the slop or something, or a famed, window pane, and they're both banging on it. You got to do one or the other to tell me that they're in the Phantom Zone.
Maybe now the demon is, tearing them apart. I don't know. Something.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, it just comes down to like, they didn't give a shit, so why should we?
yeah, exactly. And this is when they start to like, this is, they're saying goodbye to each other and everything. It's that classic kind of wrap up of a superhero movie. But one particular moment that, just because we've been talking about the Ethan thing this whole time, they say goodbye to each other, and it's like they had to do it. He calls her kiddo. Don't do that after all these things that I've been saying. You solidify it by calling her kiddo.
You're right,
fuck, dude.
Fuck, I forgot.
I literally it's in my notes. He says he calls her kiddo. What the fuck? Like I'm like, it's right there.
Maybe that's why she fucks off. She's like, listen, buddy.
Like, whoa.
I gotta go help my planet. I'll talk to you later. Holy shit.
Like, I gotta get this Omega Hedron back to Argo City, which you all remember.
Yep.
Yes, of course.
Which also, did I miss something? She flies into the lake that she came out of, but the city's just under the water of the lake.
Don't worry about
right?
it. Just don't even worry.
That's fair.
No, because I had the same thought, because I was like, I do remember her flying out of the water, but I was like, I didn't have enough interest to even go back and be like, did the psychedelic spaceship somehow end up in the Earth's core and she came out of the water somehow? I don't really know.
Yeah. You know what? That's fine.
Yep. It's that's Supergirl.
It is.
There you go.
You know what? It's been Supergirl, and we are pivoting towards the reductive rating around here, where this was a pretty easy two for me. I did get it slightly above the, like, I didn't, I went reading about this movie and how it is largely considered like one of the worst superhero movies ever made, and that it killed the Superman franchise practically, and they thought it was so bad they killed off the Supergirl character in the comics. I was like, I don't think that the movie is quite that bad.
No, I don't either.
I have seen far too many bad superhero movies to, I think, not at least on some level enjoy some of the amusingly cheesy and colorful and weird stretches of this movie. I do just think that they did hire a guy to do, a kind of mercenary copycat job behind the camera, as but could not decide whether he was going to be doing the wholesome feminist update on the genre I think they intended at one point to deliver, or he's going to have his budget reduced and he's going to have to do this scaled down and cheap looking joke on the idea that they would ever attempt to make a movie like that. And so there are moments in here that I think work. I do think that first like dance like flying sequence that she does have, and I do think moments like some of the intentional jokes about having this shirtless landscaping hunk be the damsel she needs to save, and there's moments in here where you can see the earnest version of this movie. It's just for every one of those scenes that has a nice Jerry Goldsmith bit of music to it and has a nice shot in it or something, it is also a goofy attempted rapist wearing an A&W shirt, or an all-girls school shower prank, and a magic controlled excavator crashing into a Popeyes, and you're just like, they're like, it does speak to like how silly and low stakes of an affair it is at a certain point. Does seem like the people who made it think poorly of the idea of making a Supergirl movie, which is a shame because I don't think Helen Slater thinks that. No. I think she plays the role adorably straight. And I think if the movie tried to equally play it as adorably straight, they would have had at least a little bit more something here. And some of the cheapness of it, you might have even been more forgiving of because of the earnestness, which is something I will say I feel similarly about Superman 4. That is a movie that is arguably way more cheap and chintzy and B-movie-ish than this movie. Like objectively, every technical level, like it doesn't even, you can't even say Alan Hume shot that movie. You can't say that there was the production designer of The Servant did a fucking haunted house amusement park for Faye Dunaway to ham it up like a diva in. Like you can't even say some of those redeeming things. But the overall earnestness of just being like, Christopher Reeve is really going to write a Superman movie where he's going to fight a guy on the moon. Yes. And the guy's going to dress like a He-Man pro wrestler. Yes. But he is also going to genuinely have romantic scenes with Margot Kidder again. He's going to fight for the idea of journalistic integrity and nuclear disarmament. He's going to speak at the UN and everyone's going to go, thank you, Superman. And that's what the stuff that this movie needed more of. It needed more of that kind of, we know what we're making, but we're going to try and make the best version of it. And in here you find some people who are trying to make that. And I think some people who are like just resolving themselves to making the campy, hammy, sort of amusing movie. And, it's hard to argue that there's not some fun to be had in that, but even the fun with Faye Dunaway does get exhausting at 2 fucking hours of it.
Yeah. And it's pretty one note the way she's doing it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's why, it doesn't get the 1 from me. I do think that this is better than that, but there's, I could see people even being like, you're being pretty generous with the 2 there, man. So, but that's where it is for me.
It is. Yeah. I'm at the 2 as well. I'm wondering if the hour and 5-minute one would be easier on people, but I think that there is talent here for sure. It's just that some are misstepping and then others seem like there's no consistency because I think the direction was probably completely fighting itself. And you kind of feel that a lot of the time. It doesn't necessarily know what it wants to be. And I just wish it dove into its sincerity, like especially the first Superman movie does, because Slater is honestly really good. And it was nice to read that some people at least recognized that she was at the time, even in this kind of just clusterfuck of a film. But it's I think Slater's good. I think Dunaway, I think people could find her entertaining for sure. She just is. I found what she was doing to be entertaining for like 20, 30 minutes. And then it's only that the entire time. And it really started to grate on me. So I got sick of it by the end. I did, some of the stuff is like, I get what they're going for by presenting her with these more, I guess, these men that are objectifying her and everything. It's just the way that they went about it. It seems like she's still kind of the joke sometimes, and that is definitely not what you want to be doing. Because you'll have the shower prank thing where it almost feels like it's something out of Porky's, but at least there's a comeuppance. There's like, right. I think she does something where she sends the steam back to them or something like that. So there's at least something there. It just, there are those moments where she just feels like the joke, and I don't understand why, because this is her movie, and that's just such a mistake. So yeah, 2 out of 5.
Yeah, for you, Andrew.
Oh yeah, this is like a 1.5 tops. I mean, it would have been a 2, I guess, but I'm looking on Letterboxd at the dumbass poster that they had released for this movie, where she's flying in Metropolis, New York City, where there's the Statue of Liberty with the wrong fucking arm raised, and you get the trade towers in the background. And I'm like, she never was there. Like, what is going on? Pay attention to fucking anything.
Okay, but can I counter you? If you're on that same Letterboxd page and you're looking at the image backdrop of her standing very stoically in front of a Popeyes with a giant sign that says "Love that chicken."
Love that chicken.
That's a good one.
This is one of the greatest frames in the history of image capture. Honestly, it's fantastic. But yeah, I think one of the things that I guess I'm thankful for is that this movie didn't really like kill Helen Slater's career. Like, yeah, I guess if she played Supergirl like 3 times or something, maybe she would have been a little bigger, but like she had like The Legend of Billie Jean, and she's in like City Slickers and Ruthless People, and like Secret of My Success with Michael J. Fox.
Heads, she was Superman's mom, Laura.
That's right. Yeah, she was on Smallville. She had a Seinfeld, of course. I will always know her as Becky Gelke before I will know her as Supergirl, because I'm just that much of a Seinfeld weirdo. So like she went on to do other things, which is cool. But this movie, it's just like, for the fact that they were like, boy, we really need to go in another direction to really boost this franchise back up. They really didn't give it much ammo. They didn't really seem like they were trying to wrangle the right talent. Like, so much of it is like, did you really want to do it? Or were you like producing this thing? Was it the producers? You want to just destroy this? I mean, you did a good job. There wasn't another Superman project, after 4, it was 2006, movie wise anyway. So like, it's just a complete mishandling of a property, which is unfortunate. And man, leading to the murder of the character canonically in the comics. That's brutal stuff. I was not hip to that, but Jesus, that's funny. But also like, just shows you how ill-received this was. So yeah, I guess you could go into it with the camp stuff, and the camp stuff is okay, but so much of it then will just totally turn.
If you like the camp stuff, then you're completely undermining the fact that this is like a legitimate, we're trying to make feminist Supergirl movie, which is exactly. Problem.
So like, you know, which one of those do you want, I guess? But I think either way you're getting let down, because it feels like there's just 2 different modes to this movie, and someone is flicking the switch back and forth endlessly. So just a little tonal whiplash, which is unfortunate. They really could have done a better job, but what are you going to do? I will say, is this better than Superman 3 though? Because that's a wretched ass movie.
Josh, do you like 3 better or Supergirl better?
I don't think I've
seen
hard,
3 or 4.
It's hard. I don't know. There's stuff I find more annoying in 3. Like 3 is objectively probably like a technically better movie. Okay, there's more craftsmanship going on in 3.
You got more money in it. Yeah,
there's more money there. You at least still have Reeve, who is doing good stuff with the character. You do have him sneezing in a bowling alley to help Lana Lang's son hit a perfect strike.
Oh, that's
and also attend his birthday party as Superman to impress all his friends, so that he looks like a cool kid. That's there's enjoyable stuff, but it's just all the stuff specifically with Christopher Reeve. It's as soon as you get into Robert Vaughn and Richard Pryor and any of the campy villain stuff that it gets a little bit, again, just more exhausting. to watch. So it kind of has a similar problem, but I think you could argue that the stuff with Reeve in that film is probably better than the stuff with Supergirl in this film. But you know, it totally depends. I think there will be people who prefer Supergirl.
I'll watch 3 and 4 one of these days.
4 I feel similarly about. People think it's the 1-star worst superhero movie ever made, and it is the most technically bad of all of them. There's more than enough Christopher Reeve being absolutely earnest and trying to recapture the tone of the original for me to have a good time with that movie for some stretches of it. Not
Plus
so much
John
Cryer. No, I was gonna say not so much John Cryer as his Gene Hackman's like criminal in training nephew.
Yeah, he's in like full Ducky mode in that movie too. It's like Cryer, kind of like at the height of his powers around that time. It's very interesting.
Kind of hard to watch. There's also a weird section of that movie, which is the one girl Tracy from Woody Allen's Manhattan is the like rich tabloid heiress who tries to like woo Christopher Reeve in that movie.
Mariel
kind of
Hemingway,
a weird dynamic. Mariel Hemingway. Right, yeah.
Oh, that's
there's a
so
whole
fun.
part where she dresses in like sort of like a sort of scantily clad like business power suit and like lays down like Burt Reynolds on the fireplace on the rug.
Oh, that's
you know,
right.
on her desk. It's it's a strange movie at times. There's highs and lows in the entire Superman franchise, and I think this episode was indicative of that. But they all are worth taking a look at, I think, and trying to find some amusement in. But yeah, I think that is going to wrap it up though there for Supergirl and for this week's episode. That was again Superman from 1978, Supergirl from 1984. Thanks so much, Andrew, for joining us and for going for fucking 3 hours.
Hell yeah.
On Superman and Supergirl. What is going on in the world of We Hate Movies that you can plug while you're here? You guys got any live shows coming up or anything?
If you're listening to this on July 19th and you are in the United Kingdom, tomorrow we will be wrapping up our 3-night 6-show residency at the Oxford Comedy Festival. We will be there closing out our residency talking about we're doing our Star Trek recap show, The Nexus. We're talking about an episode of Star Trek TNG called Sub Rosa, where Dr. Crusher is having intimate relations with a ghost that her grandmother also had relations with. So we'll be talking about that on stage. And then
is that what Star Trek's about?
I'm gonna watch Star Trek.
Sometimes you get in that season 7 of TNG, dude. We're grasping at fucking straws. Okay. And then, what better way to end a trip where 4 American pigs go to the United Kingdom than to have a official We Hate Movies episode on the John Goodman comedy King Ralph. So if you happen to find yourself in the UK around the Oxford area on July the 20th, pretty sure there might be some tickets available for that. Otherwise,
dude, international tours. Good for you guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty fun stuff. But otherwise, if you're unfamiliar with the show, we got a free feed show called We Hate Movies. You can get that wherever you get pods. We go through a movie just like these guys do, and we're much meaner.
But even
than
longer, because
nice
sometimes they'll do 3 hours on a single movie.
Sometimes, yes. Our Lord of the Rings episodes go kind of long. And we do have a Patreon, patreon.com/WeHateMovies, where you can get all the free feed episodes without commercials. And then we have a whole slew of other side shows that we do every month, more or less. So check it out. And thanks for having me, by the way. It's always great chatting with you two dudes. We got to hang when we were at TIFF last year, and I hope I can be there for the festival this fall.
Oh, yeah, we can't wait to see you guys all. Getting up at 8 a.m. together with our Tim Hortons coffees and being like, we're going to go watch the brand new, miserable art house festival film or a Midnight Madness movie.
When we went, there was like that Indonesian nonstop 2.5-hour action film at 9 a.m. That was something else. Never experienced anything
did we watch that with you, Andrew? When we were watching
I was sitting next to you guys. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I can't remember what it was called now.
And it was in the the equivalent of like the Canadian equivalent of like the Dolby Theater. It was so fucking loud.
It was crazy, dude. It was crazy. Oh man, can't wait for TIFF.
Totally.
That is TIFF, baby. But for our listeners, we're going to be back in 1 week's time doing your guys' patron voted episode, which you guys have said enough of the fucking blockbusters, enough of John Williams. This is not the show I subscribe to. It's called Sleazoids. Fuck you guys. I hate you. You're doing Straw Dogs. by Sam Peckinpah, and then you're doing Deliverance by John Boorman, which is a double feature. I will have to save the uniting factor for over on the Patreon feed, because I just don't even want to say it on the same episode that we did here. Thanks, guys, for making us seem like we are monsters, but that's what we're going to be talking about on the Patreon. Once again, every time we do that episode, we drop the next poll or the next voting cycle. So get your double features ready so that you can vote on the next one. And then in 2 weeks' time, we are going to be back with a very special guest where we are going pure. We've heard you. Look, we've heard you. We're going pure sleaze mode. We are going to be talking about a 1976 or 1977 literal drive-in double feature of grotesque little monster movies. We're talking about Squirm, which is about a bunch of killer worms. And then we're going to be talking about Tentacles, which I didn't even look it up, but I'm going to guess like octopus or some sort of undersea, creature with tentacles murdering people.
If you're lucky.
But I can 100% confirm the guest who has chosen this saw these movies at the 1977 drive-in as a double feature. Whoa. And that is actually, we're going down memory lane with that guest. That's why he picked them. So this is like when we originally conceived the show, that was the idea. So we're doing that double feature in 2 weeks' time. So look forward to that. But that wraps it up for everything this week. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy.